Hours have been surreal, like hanging out with Coach Solich, Tom Osborne, Heisman Trophy winners, and then this for our players is amazing.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O, this is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
It just dawned on me. Maybe it's when you get older, time flies. This is the last day of last Monday of April.
April's cruised. I was telling my wife that yesterday as we were cleaning out the garage. Yeah, how was your Sunday? But it's like, man, here comes May. Can't stop that month from coming.
Oh,
Yeah, eventually it'll be
like
worse. Just took off.
2023 is like flying by.
Yeah, so did April.
And
April
it was
really
snowing on
cruised.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
The weather wasn't so great on Saturday. Kind of squelched the atmosphere down in Lincoln in the spring.
Great word. I like that.
Squelched. There wasn't a lot of tailgating. It wasn't like a huge buzz. It was kind of meh outside. Yeah. Just, I think the weather. I think people are shocked. It's snowing in Omaha in the morning. I'm thinking, what is going on? What are we doing? And I got Channel 7 Fear Lady is like, she goes, there are flurries on the camera, but if you have accumulation, let us know. I'm like, what are we talking here? 1 to 2 inches? Yeah. Like it was just I
had to put the fuel stabilizer in my snow blower.
It was cold in Lincoln, but I don't know. People didn't tune in to listen to bitch about the weather. My God, it's the 24th of April. What did we do to Mother
Monday.
Nature? I had this discussion yesterday.
Trying to figure it out.
So about the weather yesterday, because I'm a little bit of a weather weenie, and I think we came to the conclusion we're a month behind.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we'll experience our April warmth like in October.
So we're just kind of
I would trade that maybe.
This is I would say this last weekend it was very March-like.
See, Huskers have Northwestern October 21st, bank on 78 degrees that day.
Well, there have been times, even a Black Friday game against Iowa, there's been the extremes of the whole stadium is frozen and you got to chip ice off your plank, or it's been like in the 70s and you're wearing a T-shirt for a Black Friday game.
Yeah, 2 years ago in Iowa City, I remember it was warm.
We went to one in 2011 where it was like 60 degrees.
Mm-hmm. And then there was I never forget the first one with Nebraska in the Big Ten. It was the temperature. I don't even know what it was, but it was windy as all could be, and it just it was miserable because it was probably like maybe in the 30s, but then the wind just drove it down, and it was just not fun. So you never know.
We'll have the 7-day coming up next.
Well, the 7-day isn't very good either.
No, it's not.
Like Rule wanted the spring game to be this upcoming Saturday. The weather still would have been crappy. It would have been raining.
Yeah.
Welcome in, everybody, as we kick off a week. It is a football Monday after the spring game. I felt like Jim Nantz. Remember how Jim Nantz signed off, which is still in this month, earlier this month? By the way, we're finishing the best month, March and April, back-to-back, the combo. He said, and with that, the 23 Masters has come to an end. I thought that's how they should have signed off when the spring game came to an end on Saturday. And with that, spring football has come to an end. Mm-hmm. I got to admit, we'll talk a lot about the spring game today. That fourth quarter, I paid no attention. That was my fourth quarter to wander around and go see people.
People watching?
Oh, just I have no idea what happened in the fourth quarter other than Chuba Purdy shocked, threw into double coverage, and threw an interception at the end of the game.
The
Gage Stinger who balled out.
Yeah, Gage Stinger. There you go. None of us had him, but Gage could actually play. He could do something.
I am openly rooting, and it was a good day for like local Metro guys that probably are not, super headliners. Like Maverick Noonan played a bit. He looked good. Gage Stinger is a baller, man. He just makes plays. He did that at Millard South on both sides of the ball. And once they figure out a position for him, I think he's going to play a little bit more. Grant Taggy has always been a really, really good football player. And he had a great day. And is it like if you want him to go away, he's not going to go away. And he's a special teams guy. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be afraid to throw him out there for a few snaps in a high leverage game. He played well. Corver Dema played well as well. I mean, guys that walked onto campus. And then John Bullock looked really, really good. So I do not hide it at all. I am rooting for local Metro guys.
I'll even throw A.J. Rollins.
Play.
As you should. Yeah. A.J. Rollins had a couple plays too. That defensive line looked okay. I mean, it was kind of weird seeing him, I don't know, maybe just the number, and then also seeing Buckley, who, by the way, I know we'll get into this, is large. But I couldn't tell if it's just
not as large as Jacob Hood.
Well, just seeing the numbers too, like seeing him in the 8s, but early on, A.J. Rollins, seeing him kind of actually get in the backfield a little bit, you can see what they're interested in.
You got to be careful if you're talking about any defensive guy that got into the backfield. You're going to get offensive line hate. That offense was rugged. But here's the thing: as spring football is now over, they got 15 practices. They're in the books. Now this week is meetings. This is portaling time.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go evaluation. They'll go heavy in recruiting in the month of May. Could pick up a couple of commitments between now and the end of May. And everything will lead up to when fall camp starts to get ready for Minnesota in the start of the year. So it's always about spring games across the country is you watch them and what is the right amount of reaction compared to the right amount of overreaction. Because I think you could get a pretty good sample size of both when you look at Nebraska's spring football game. The couple of takeaways, and I'm not going to go all in. I know I just saw you had the box score up. I have no idea what stats were in the game. I know that the White won.
Oh, I had to see what my guy Trevin Lubin had because I forgot what he had.
Yeah, he carried one time.
Yeah.
His name was called.
He definitely was not he wasn't even a finalist for the Breon Carnes Award. So I just wanted to see how my guy did.
Now, as a fullback, he carried the ball. I mean, we had a fullback trap, and they lined up in the I formation, and people didn't make it through the first quarter because they were fully husked, and the heart was going. But there's the balance of the reaction and the overreaction to spring games. It's not just Nebraska; it's across the country because spring games have a tendency to be a little bit sloppy because the staffs are split apart, the teams are a little bit wonky. So when you're running like a scrimmage the previous Saturday, which is more of a reflection, I think, on what the spring was, it's a little bit more structured and everybody's kind of together where you don't have guys going across each, wearing different jerseys, going across each sideline. The coaches are split apart, all of that. So spring games can be a little bit sloppy unless you have an extremely veteran team that really doesn't need a lot of coaching. And they were veteran going into the spring.
And they had veteran coaches, too.
And they just ball out once it comes to the spring game. So this is, for some, it's a very underwhelming. There are certain players, we'll get to them throughout the morning, that were very underwhelming to me, position groups that were underwhelming. There are other players that I thought would flash and did flash. There's still a lot of the questions that are out there when you begin spring, especially kind of at quarterback of what's going to happen. So people are going to be a little bit underwhelmed. And we'll ask the question, what did you learn about this spring? First and foremost, Tony White is going to be a stud.
Mm-hmm.
So the defense is a little bit further along than I thought, and they're missing some key players, and they still got a ways to go. It's going to be a couple of recruiting cycles. They got to find some fast and agile guys at certain spots. But coached up, whether it be Tony White or Terrence Knight, and you brought up A.J. Rollins. How about two of the better tacklers on Saturday were two guys that were stuck at tight end last year?
Right. I mean, that tells you a lot right there.
Well, it shows you that they're coached up well.
Exactly.
I mean, Terrence Knight can coach him up. But that whole group as a defense,
small amount of time.
Tony White in running the 3-3-5 and all the things that you can do with it. And they didn't hold back a lot of stuff on Saturday. They can wreak some havoc. And he got really fancy with his second and third level guys, which as they get more experience and more knowledge and they communicate a little bit better, I'm very intrigued by that defense because not only the things you can do, but they were physical.
Mm-hmm.
They were a very physical defense all spring. And look at the amount on Saturday of guys that were around the football on defense. I mean, they didn't miss a lot of tackles.
Oh.
They were really sound structurally. That's where I was most excited about, was on the defensive side of the football. But they're definitely a work in progress. Connor and I were walking out of the stadium, Nick, and I said, how does – and I said this is a 6-6 football team before they ever played on Saturday. I said, what do you think? He goes, yes. They feel like they're 6-6. They're a work in progress. There's some things that are missing. You feel like there's some things that are missing. But it's like the typical reaction to spring. There's some good reaction, and then there's some, well, I got to be careful. I don't want to overreact to things I saw.
Well, and I didn't want to overreact to what watching that defense look like, and not necessarily even how impactful that they, when you try to start, okay, how would this look in the Big Ten? Okay, we're watching them go up against, guys that they've been familiar with, throughout the entire spring, but how would this look in the Big Ten? I tried not to get into the overreaction of watching the different, just the creativity with that defense, I guess maybe is the better way to put it. And the different angles you're coming at, you're seeing weak side pressure, seeing strong side pressure, and watching how fluid the linebackers were. And so between the defensive line, which is still, and again, don't want to overreact to it. Maybe that's why it had a better impression on me, is I had such a lower standard for the front seven, especially the guys that weren't going to be participating with, your inside linebackers and Henrich and Reimers. But when you think of the guys up front, especially, using A.J. Rollins as an example, a guy who's making that transition, to see him having an impact of the game early on, but, legitimate to the way he uses his hands, but also just watching where guys are lining up and where they're moving. And you also pointed out something that I think a lot of people, just kind of gauging some of the reaction over the last 48 hours, were taken away. And that was the lack of missed tackles. When guys were in position, for the most part, they were making tackles. Does that mean you're going to be a great tackling team in the fall? I mean, not necessarily, but does that also mean, hey, how many times have we seen you guys being really sloppy and missing tackles in the spring, where you think, oh my gosh, it's going to be an awful tackling team? It doesn't always mean they're going to be an awful tackling team in the fall. So I just think it looked like a group that had been well coached. It looked like a group that, even despite some of the concerns and the question marks in the front seven, that it had at least understood what they're trying to get accomplished and doing some of the fundamental things. Because when I think of spring, I think of, at the very least, please iron out some of the fundamental things that are going to show up in any type of setting like we saw on Saturday. So defensively, and watching the way that Tony White wants to attack another team, you got an idea of it, and how exciting really that 3-3-5 can be when they kind of get the personnel they need and they get things kind of ironed out. I thought just watching the scheme itself was kind of cool to see.
They hit hard. They had some dominating contact on that defense. I think the word fundamentals, you look at why 3 guys that just showed up on campus were able to get on the field in 15 practices. Cam Lenhart, Prince Will, and Maverick Noonan all look fundamentally sound. Now, there's 3 characteristics of those guys, and they have promise. I mean, there is a lot of promise there. Now, things will get real in the fall, but they showed you something. They're all, you can tell, were really well coached where they came from, their respective high school programs. And then I think another big thing is physically, they are further ahead than most true freshmen. So Prince Will, now that people have seen him up close, he didn't look like a freshman. Okay, he doesn't carry himself as a freshman either, on and off the field. Like you would almost think he's been in college for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Lenhart is the same way. Lenhart was really well coached at IMG Academy, because if you look, everything, he stays low. He's a quick burst guy off the ball. But fundamentally, all 3 of those guys came from programs where they were coached up. They take to coaching, and they're going to have a chance to get on the field. So that defensive side, I didn't expect a lot, because I thought of the transition and the schemes. But you can tell there's some dudes on that side of the ball that can coach football. And they are, when you incorporate the 2 linebackers that you were mentioning, Ty Robinson, when you get Buford back from his injury and you figure out what's going to happen in the secondary, I mean, I think at least they give you some stability, and it's not an area where you go, oh my gosh, Nebraska is going to be in trouble. That means that offense is going to have to hold on to the ball and score 35 every game. I think they're going to give you a shot because of that scheme, which, we'll wait to see how it does against Big Ten. But I think Tony White is creative enough. They're going to cause some issues, at least in the preparation for Nebraska leading up to the week and during the course of a game, especially against inexperienced offensive lines on what they want to do. Because he did some things on Saturday that he put that offensive line, whether it would be the number 1 offensive line or the number 2 offensive line, their heads were on a swivel. Yeah. I mean, they were spinning. There was probably stuff they'd seen during the course of spring football that they weren't necessarily ready for on Saturday.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And if the thing I did like, especially early on, though, if the offense would have like a decent play, you would usually see the defense, and kind of spearheaded by the defensive line and how they attacked, follow up in the very next play. Like you would see a little bit of a give and take with that. So to me, that also showed that this defense they can be resilient, which again, we'll see how resilient you are when it's live, when we're seeing actual opponents. But, and even watching the secondary that we know is going to be the strength of that defense because of the number of guys they have and experience that they have there. A guy that I know we've all been kind of excited about, especially since last year when his role continued to grow and grow, Malcolm Hartzog, all over the place. And for such a smaller bodied guy, his tenacity and just willingness to put on a big stick, whether it's with one of his own players or, as we saw last year too, the opponent, like he could do some big things. And just kind of wondering what he would look like now, a little bit more developed in the weight room and having that full year last year, what he would look like. And you could see his presence as well in the secondary too. So I think all in all, defensively for me, that was probably the most, in a good way, eye-opening moment of it, just watching, again, the way that they're going to kind of go at the opponent because, and you mentioned it, the frustration that I think that they have the ability to cause teams, what you might lack in experience that opposition's inexperience about facing Tony White and what he wants to do, because it's just, I don't think there's always going to be a true tendency report every week of like, well, this is how they tend to go about it. If we're running, say, in a single eye, or if we're trying to spread out here, this is how he's been doing it in the past, because he seems like he's got something diagnosed for not only each team, but almost like each formation, each setup, each quarter on what they expect to see. And to account for that pressure, whether it's first down or third down, and whether it's weak side or strong side, it was just kind of fun to see the way that they're kind of attacking gaps and try to get after the quarterback, because as we've always talked about defensively, like to see it with the down linemen, like to see it with the edge rushers, but more than anything, just want to see more pressure on the quarterback. I think this defense lends itself to give you those moments.
We're already getting this in the Equitable Bank inbox. The physicality of the defense is pretty noticeable right away. I mean, not only guys how their body looks. I mean, there's a lot of guys that look different in a short amount of time in their strength and conditioning program with Corey Campbell, but their pursuit of the football, and when they get there to hit people, they're not afraid to hit. And there were numerous hats that were near the ball. Back to what you mentioned about the defensive backfield. So you're going to go into the offseason. You already have your 2 cornerback spots locked down, and you have your rover spot. Newsome and Hartzog are your 2 starting cornerbacks. Isaac Gifford's going to be your rover. Now you have to figure out what you're going to do with safeties, because who's going to be there after this week?
Right.
I mean, there it is.
Everybody's
trying to do the math of how to get to 85. They're at 99 scholarship guys right now. Those last 3 or 4 to get to 85, I'm kind of struggling with, because I can give you 10 that I think, I don't know what their route is to playing football at Nebraska. If they want to play football, if there's a better place for them. But in that defensive backfield, I mean, I've given you your 2 cornerbacks and your rover. On their depth chart, the 2 starting safeties are Omar Brown and Corey Collier. Mm-hmm. Then after that, Miles Farmer. Miles Farmer and Braxton Clark are 2 guys that have started here in the past. What's their role in the future? Because they weren't running with the ones the other day. So that's an area to watch over the next week on how that all plays out. But I think on the second and third level, that's Tony White's going to be a big factor. I mean, I like some of the stuff they did with their linebackers. I think that jack role could be developing. That could be one of those, man, I want to come to Nebraska and play the jack role in Tony White's defense. But I was really, really encouraged on the offense, or the defense side of the ball. Offense, kind of what I expected.
Yeah. The one area I will say maybe I was a bit surprised, and again, this goes back to what you hear, what maybe and maybe I should have been, because we've talked about him a lot and wanting to see this part of his game at Heinrich Harburg in throwing the ball. Not running the ball, because you see the long option run and everything, but it just between seemingly sped up, even on the 2-point conversion to Billy Kemp, like that wasn't a great throw. He was just wide open, So one afternoon, I'm not going to try to say, hey, that's it, but Yeah, I wanted to see. I mean, really, you could throw all the quarterbacks. He is.
He's a runner.
I think he is.
The love that he's been getting in the spring is because his ability to run the football.
Yeah.
It's the question of, I've always said, hey, how come nobody ever talks about him throwing the football? Well, you saw on Saturday.
Right.
And he's still kind of raw in that category. But, I mean, if this was game week, who would be your number 3 quarterback? And that's just with the preference, thinking that Casey Thompson will be either 1 or 2 with Jeff Sims.
Oh, okay. So then...
you forgot about him already.
Well, no. I'm glad you put that part of it in there.
Because Harburg it's throwing the football is rough.
Yeah.
And the decision-making and the progressions. Now you can run the football. I mean, we talked at the beginning of spring, hey, make the kid a tight end. Mm-hmm. What if he's a fullback?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they have a play for it.
Because he's got some work to do in throwing the football.
Yeah. But even Richard Torres, at times struggled as well. I mean, really the only guy who actually threw the ball a little bit more consistently was Jeff Sims. Was the guy who, all signs point to is going to be your number 1 or is your number 1. Threw the ball, I thought, fairly decent. Other than that, just not a lot. Like it was weird seeing Chuba come out finally, there in the first half, and you see him scramble for a nice gain. You're like, okay, that's what Chuba does. But then every time you're watching him go back and try to throw the ball, you're like, where is it? Where is that?
See, that's like, I don't know what his role is. And then I'm thinking, what is the role of Logan Smothers, who was out the entire spring?
Right.
Like Torres, there's something there with Torres, and he's not the runner that all of them are. And first and foremost, I got to be able to run the football, not get happy feet and just take off. That's the thing I liked about Sims. He doesn't have happy feet. But all of them have to be able to run almost first, even though Rule is like, well, Jeff Sims is a passer that runs a 4.4. Well, they have to have some element of running. And Purdy is that. I just don't know where he fits.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know where Logan Smothers fits. But I wouldn't want to push Richard Torres out the door. I'd like to see a little bit more of him. And he just basically arrived.
Yeah.
But their quarterback room will, and everybody's today picking their fighter. You're either a Sims or a Thompson. But I don't think, they have, 6? They have 6 scholarship quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't even think Rule wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks. I think he'd like to have 3 scholarship quarterbacks, and then maybe that 4th guy is a walk-on.
Yeah.
So I think they will go into the year with 4 scholarship quarterbacks. So that means that 2 won't be here. And that would make sense. I mean, if you're a quarterback, there's only 1 ball to go around. If you're not in the top 3, what's your plan unless you just got here? If you've been here for a while and you're not in the top 3, then what are you thinking about your future at Nebraska? I would think that you would want to go somewhere that probably gave you a better opportunity to play, because it's going to be one or the other guy that's going to be battling to start on August 31st.
I would also say this about Torres, and this is coming from a guy who played high school football quarterback, and not very well. Just watching the difference between
John Moxon.
I wish. Watching the difference between, and from a mechanical standpoint, Harburg and Torres, when they were in a true passing situation and the run wasn't an option, Torres' mechanics, you can tell, are a lot better. I mean, even on his misfires, the way the ball's coming out, the way that, he kind of stands and presents himself in the pocket compared to Heinrich Harburg, there's a difference there. So, I mean, even in a spring game where you're watching guys kind of be very erratic throwing the football, there's guys that still kind of look the part. Guys you can tell, like, hey, either they're having an off day or there's still something there. That's where I would maybe, from just the pure passing standpoint, lead towards Richard Torres.
This week will be interesting, the roster movement, but we'll get definitely more into the quarterback derby. There's a lot of stuff. That offense was rugged at times on Saturday, and it wasn't just the offensive line. It was throwing the ball, running the ball, catching the ball, holding on to the ball. Special teams, if Nebraska can ever figure out their kicking game, that would be nice. By the way, the door you feel that breeze? That door is wide open for Tristan Alvano.
Oh, yeah.
Tristan Alvano was there. They had all the recruits back. That door is wide open for the boomer from West Side to come in and start kicking in the fall. Because I got to fix that. I mean, that just seems to be a work in progress. But, as a kid who is very, very confident, I'm rooting for him. I hope he steps through and he takes that job right away when he shows up on campus.
Friend of the show, by the way.
Because I got to fix that. I mean, I know Bleak Road hit a long field goal, but they're going to need a lot of threes. Mm-hmm. When they have an opportunity and they go to put a 3 on the board, they need that 3 to be on the board. All right. Coming up a little bit later in about 2 hours, Amy Just from the Lincoln Journal-Star will join us. We'll get her thoughts on a wide-ranging spring game, from the actual game to that thing that was unveiled. Spooky. That's what I would.
It's a thing.
Oh, that. Okay.
Herbie Husker. Oh my God. No. I'm sorry, kids. That thing. Woo. And then the day for Frank Solich, which is pretty cool.
That was cool.
Got to talk to Coach for a while. Him and Tim Albin, and man, it touched him. He was very, very emotional. But I did find out the secret on why he came back because I asked him. So he told me. So it was pretty cool. One of the coolest things about Coach Solich being back, and I know a couple of his kids. I told his wife Pam. I said, "Wow." She goes, "Jeff is here," and that's one of their sons, the son that lives in Idaho, where they now live. And I go, "Man, I don't even recognize him because when you guys were here, he was like small." And Brandon Bussman, who was Frank's director of football operations, who is a good friend of mine, longtime friend, him and other people said that was the first time in about 20 years that they had either been down on the field for all of the ceremonial stuff or actually been back in the stadium.
That's crazy.
It brought some people back, and it was much needed for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And so that was really, really cool. But now all of that's out of the way, and it's time to focus on football and an offseason where Nebraska's got to get better. They're not all of a sudden getting an influx of talent, but they got to get better. They fundamentally, they've got to get better, and they've got to make a huge step, I believe, in the way they play the game. And that's what Rule alluded to this, focusing for 3.5 hours, which I thought was spot on. Yeah. If he can get them to focus for 3.5 hours, but it's a pretty important sprint. It's a work in progress team that, to me, feels 6-6.
Yeah, I don't think anything.
That's okay.
Anything that I saw, I'm kind of hovering in the 5 and 6 range. It's kind of where I've been, and I didn't see anything that would take me away from that one way or the other. I didn't see anything that I'm like, whoa, we're talking 8 now, but I didn't see anything where I'm like, oh God. Give me 3
We have a radio show on the station.
Give me 2
if
wins.
You want to overreact.
Yeah, like I feel like for everything you saw that was good, you could counter it with something else. And this is what you should see in the spring, unless, as you pointed out much earlier, you got experienced guys that have been through this together before and have been together with this coaching staff too. An experienced coaching staff, when I say experience at that current program. If you expected to see a lot more overall, there's some areas where you can maybe nitpick a little bit, and it's probably fair. But overall, I think you were probably being a little bit unrealistic with what you hope to get out of Saturday.
All right, Amy Just of the Journal-Star is going to join us coming up at 8:30. Also, it was a busy weekend for basketball. Tominaga was at the game. Buddy of mine.
Way to bury the lead.
Buddy of mine was
there,
taking selfies. So he sent me a picture of him and Tominaga. Tominaga, by the way, looks like he's about 12.
Yeah.
When he's all got like wearing a stocking cap and his Letterman's coat. And I said, ask him if he's coming back. And he said, I'm not the first to ask him because a lot of people are. And all I did was smiled. But the NBA early entry draft deadline has come and gone. Nobody from Nebraska. Kalkbrenner didn't put his name in. Of course, Trey Alexander and Art Kaluma, since we were last on the air, have done that. So in the last hour, our Hoophead guys, Jacob Bigelow, we'll get his thoughts on what happens next with Josiah Alec, Hunter Salas, Latrell Wrightsell Jr., committed to Alabama over the weekend. And then what happens with Creighton, with Trey Alexander in the draft, Art Kaluma in the draft? 50-50? Could you go 1 for 2 and be happy with the one that comes back? I don't think the other one is gone. So I will be on record that I think Trey is the 50-50 guy. Kaluma's not coming back to Creighton.
I
just don't see
Never
him coming
sounded
back,
like he was anyway.
Back to Creighton. I know everybody says the right thing. Well, I'm going to retain my eligibility. Mm-hmm. I think for all parties involved, it would be good if he stayed in the NBA draft. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think it would be good for Creighton if Trey Alexander stayed in the NBA draft. So Joel Lorenzi will join us a little bit later in the show as well on a Football Monday. Yeah, in April. Plus, we will talk about the reality show that happened in Boulder over the weekend. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's a reality show where Colorado athletics, good on them. This is the greatest investment of resources that they've ever made at Colorado, is buying Deion Sanders to come and run their football program. They are getting the return on investment. They have a reality show going, and they also, found out the real world when it comes to the portal. The portal will giveth, and the portal is taketh away from Colorado with a savage move by a kid on Colorado's current roster. Good. All of that to come. You can always join us. Your thoughts on what you learned, for the good, the bad, or the ugly, from Saturday in Lincoln. If you were one of the 66,045, you don't get scorned by Brent Venables. You get, hey, good on those people in Nebraska. They go to a spring game. Mm-hmm. We got to stop this spring game crowd shaming. People that love football, mm-hmm. fan bases that love football, are going in the fall. They're going in the spring. We got to stop with the shaming. Yeah. Hey, if you're Arizona State and you have 4 people in the stands, well, you know what? You're not real passionate about football to begin with. I wouldn't expect more than 4. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you got 5, I'd be like, that's pretty cool. But you had 4 people in the stands. Okay, I don't care. You're Arizona State. You don't have a ton of passion for your football program. But places in the Big Ten love football year-round, and it showed. So take that, Brent Venables.
They're revealing statues, though. They're revealing statues. Come on. Show for that.
951-1620. You can always email us into the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary at 1620thezone.com, Handley at 1620thezone.com. Also on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620, at Nick 1620. We also have a night in the playoffs, the Ant-Man and the Joker. That sounds like
That sounds
like a Marvel movie right. that happened at the Target Center in Minneapolis. That, and it is NFL Draft Week. The Minnesota Vikings trade up to take Will Levis at number 2. I'm waiting for Shafe to call. Or BC. Or Tim Kruger. All 3 guests on the show that are diehard Viking fans. Will Levis's odds are now to be the 2nd quarterback taken, and the Vikings may be interested in a quarterback.
I love, you mentioned a couple of those guys that I know to be Viking fans as well. If you try to quarter them on Kirk Cousins, it's awkward for all of them.
So they get Kirk Cousins for 1 more year.
Yeah.
So he'll play the 23 year, and then they figure out who's going to be their quarterback in 24. Mm-hmm. Well, they get their quarterback on Thursday in Kansas City.
Splashy.
Will Levis being possibly the 2nd quarterback taken just blows my mind.
He's got to ride the wave, though. 1 week it was Richardson. Could be the guy. Will Levis, way back when, could be top 3.
Oh, if you would have told me in the fall that Will Levis might be the 2nd quarterback off the board.
In the summer, though, he was on a lot of boards as the 2nd or even 3rd quarterback taken, and I thought, what the hell are we doing?
Maybe I watched too much football. I would have said, you ain't no Brett Ciancia. What are we doing here? Yeah. But the draft does come your way on Thursday. Trey Palmer, the most likely to be drafted out of Nebraska. Maybe just 1 guy drafted. All of that on a busy Monday. Glad to have you. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. It's the 5K giveaway on 1620 The Zone. Enter to win a $5,000 shopping spree right now at 1620thezone.com. It's the 5K giveaway on 1620 The Zone.
From basketball to volleyball, baseball to softball, soccer, tennis, and so much more, the Creighton sports season is packed with action. The 1620 The Jays podcast, presented by Barry Law, covers it all. Each week, we visit with Blue Jay athletes and coaches to hear their stories and document their climb through the Big East Conference. The 1620 The Jays podcast drops each Friday morning and is found at 1620thezone.com and all major podcast platforms. Just search 1620 The Jays. Covering all things Creighton Blue Jays, it's the 1620 The Jays podcast, presented by Barry Law from 1620 The Zone.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hello there. My name is Seychelle, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is the punch of flavors that's unlike any other. You get the crispy tenderness of the chicken and that hint of sourness from the pickles. Ta-da!
Hey, I'm Juan, and what makes Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is you're going to get chicken that's crispy, golden, and juicy. This is the gold standard of chicken sandwiches.
Order the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customers paid for their testimonials.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Yes, we do have availability. Those dates for how many guests?
Andrea's Boutique Hotel is the destination to tie the knot.
Oh, you want the whole property?
She needs an assistant to catch the bookings bouquets.
249 guests, huh? Oh, and 3 dogs.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Zone TV is now live at 1620thezone.com. Watch us live and see what's happening behind the scenes every weekday from 6A to 6P. No matter how you listen or watch, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone TV now live at 1620thezone.com. Powered by Tickets for Less.
Saw Colorado offered Alante Brown overnight. Nebraska should offer Montana Lemoyne Craig, who is in the portal, who balled out during the spring game. This is how, if you're not going to play another team and have like a joint practice or a game in the spring, this is what the spring game should be. Anybody that is interested in going to the portal, just make it a showcase, because that kid balled out and then he went in the portal. That's fantastic. Welcome to the new world of college football. You go crazy on national TV on a Saturday, and by Sunday, you're in the portal seeing if anybody watched that game.
6'2", 185 as well.
I saw
he ain't hard to find.
3 catches for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. Welcome back in, everybody. All right, I did kind of bury the lead. I admit when I'm wrong. I was completely wrong about Nebraska baseball. Nebraska baseball went and got absolutely dominated, forgot to compete the entire weekend in Iowa City and got swept. Outscored 25-7. So I will no longer say Now, I will not say any more the rest of the year, Nick. Nebraska's the best team in the Big Ten. I got some issues they got to figure out.
Yeah.
First with starting pitching, but that was not good. That was not good as well. I was coming back from the spring game on Saturday. We were trying to find the game. Like, the game was not carried in Omaha.
Right.
Like, they didn't
spring game coverage.
The Husker radio station didn't go from the spring game into the baseball game, which makes sense. People want to listen to the baseball game, join in progress, but what the hell? So we had to get our good friends 105. No, Nick knows that. Nick worked at that station. I used to say it all the time. Whoever's running that station has no idea what they're doing. I mean, why can't you go from the spring game to the baseball game?
You can.
So, but in Lincoln, our good friends at Broadcast House, which are the affiliate in Lincoln, they'll give you all your Huskers you want. Mm-hmm. So we were searching the dial, and we got on 105.3, and it was not a good, while the football game's going on, you're following the baseball game, and it's like, ooh, now it's 6-0. Now it's 8-0. And to get blanked, especially the day after what happened on Friday night when you got to be 11-6 and just kind of fell apart a little bit. So this because you worked with him. Ben's working with Logan Foster.
Yeah.
So Ben wears the emotions of Nebraska baseball on his sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 100%. And he was getting really, really frustrated. And so there are certain people that broadcast around here that when their team is not doing good, I'm tuning in because they're going to let it just rip. And so Ben was like, you could tell, but all I wanted to do, I wanted to hear when they interviewed Will.
Yeah.
I'm like, this ought to be good.
Yeah.
And it was like 1.5 questions. And Will goes, we were terrible. And I was like, well, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
So that was the weekend. So I'll admit when I'm wrong, I was completely wrong, but do not let the lost weekend in Iowa City overshadow the fact that it's been a long time since Iowa has beaten Nebraska in football, men's basketball, or volleyball.
Take that, JD. So I'm going to add this to Ben, too. Iowa City also sort of brings it out of him. He's had some he's had some frustrating moments in Iowa City, too. So
yeah, the
that coupled
over
with
there never go well.
It doesn't, and I think that kind of weighs on him. And kind of interesting enough, if I could paint an optimistic feel to a really bad weekend of baseball for Nebraska baseball. So if you saw maybe some of the post-game notes, this was the first time Nebraska has been swept on the road in Big Ten play since 2016. I was on that last one in 2016, and that was in Ann Arbor. And I remember walking away from that weekend wondering if this team would even make the Big Ten tournament on how bad they looked. They ended up finishing second that year. They went on a little bit of a tear, and a lot of the same things that Michigan sort of exposed Nebraska that weekend in 2016, Iowa did the same thing. Starting pitching just was not strong that weekend. Offense was extremely streaky. They were kind of sloppy with the baseball. Like everything that some of the things are maybe a little bit more of your identity, and some of the things are just unfortunately showing up that weekend. So there is that. Then, if we think of the most recent sweep at home, championship season, losing to Rutgers, they bounced back pretty well. So again, all is not lost, but there are concerns. And you hit the main one, and that was starting pitching was just very ugly. I mean, there's really no painting a rosy picture on that. Emmett struggled again, which is not good. Jace came back okay.
There's something wrong there.
Yeah.
His velo has dropped.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the arm is tired or there's an injury, but his velocity has taken a dip.
Yep.
And they took him off a weekend. So I think he's got a tired arm.
Yeah. And Will Walsh, I've said this a lot. If you've watched him pitch, he's a guy that his fastball is very hittable. But in kind of a similar situation as Jake Myers was, is if he is locating that changeup, that fastball looks like it's coming in at 90 plus. And if it's not, he becomes very hittable. The walks were up over the weekend too for the guys. And so again, this comes back to a pitching thing. But what I would also say was concerning, but it's not the thing that I think carries with them. The offense was, again, very stagnant, but you had, especially on Friday, if you think of what you're up against Friday, you're up against a very effectively wild pitcher that's got plus stuff when it comes to velo. But then yesterday, what you saw on the mound was just a bulldog effort not to be able to kind of break through. I think it just sort of punctuated what was a very frustrating offensive weekend. The things that I would kind of chalk up to the keep your eye on this is the pitching, is the rotation. And you mentioned Kaminsky. That's another thing. They might have a situation on Saturdays that they got to address, but also the hitting element. That's one that I say, you know what? And Will said it after the game yesterday. Unfortunately, sometimes you have these weekends, not that they're ignoring it, not that they're trying to dismiss it as, we'll be fine. But I think there are certain areas that Will's probably looking at this team saying, hitting wise, that's not us. We'll be able to overcome that. Pitching, as he said, we kind of have to look inward. They're going to have to do that.
Their starting pitching only gave them 6 2/3.
Yeah.
Gave up 12 earned runs, walked 7, struck out 5. My concern level is now high because Kaminsky velo drop, Emmett Olson back-to-back poor outings.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's one like takeaway that is on the positive, possibly Drew Christo has turned the corner.
Yeah, he's given you a lot of plus innings now, plus appearances.
There's some promise there. Drew Christo is starting to stack performances.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's some good to come out of this.
The process with them.
But they laid a major egg. That was, I know baseball, it happens, and long season, don't overreact, but just the consistency and they didn't compete. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. They didn't compete this weekend.
Well, and
they got what they deserve because Iowa looked at that as a weekend that if we're going to get back into the mix of the NCAA tournament, we've got to do some damage. Not only win the series, but sweep the series, and they did that. And I think their RPI this morning is 42.
Yeah, and now you look at them where they were kind of hovering right around mid to, bottom tier of the Big Ten. You have a weekend like that. Now they are in a log jam for fourth at 7-5 with, teams like Nebraska. And so the way that they were able to kind of flip not only what they could do from a national perspective, but also in the conference race with that. So it was obviously a big weekend for them. But this is also something that I was still reluctant to say, all right, let's go all in on where Nebraska is in the Big Ten standings, because up until this weekend, from a talent standpoint, and you know it too, because you've seen Iowa, you've seen Maryland, from a talent standpoint, those teams, even when they're kind of scuffling, you give them a moment. And that at some point that weekend is going to, especially against good teams.
And a good coach.
Yeah. I mean, Heller's a great coach.
Rick Heller's a really, really good coach.
He is. There's no debating that.
And they're going to be scary because they also announced this weekend they're going all in on their facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So your enjoyment of games at Dwayne Banks Field.
Or doing a game out of the ticket office.
Yeah, those days are changing.
But yeah, so again, it was sort of a perfect storm. But Nebraska, conference-wise, I don't think was not even don't think. I don't think it's debatable. Had not been tested to the level of Iowa yet. Okay, so there's your first real major conference challenge. How do you respond to it? Because you got Maryland in a couple weeks as well on the road. And in some areas, I could say they're more talented than what you saw with Iowa.
That's Nick. Jimmy's here as well. I'm Garrett. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy's got an update coming in the next hour. When we come back, so what was the tipping point to get Frank Solich to come back? And if everything that has happened in the last 5+ months of getting Coach Solich back, talking about the fullback, talking about all of the past history and reconnecting with previous coaches, if I asked you who the head coach was when all this happened, who would you say? We'll get into that coming up in the next hour. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown near 102nd and L. Then on Center, be prepared for things to slow down quite a bit near 175th. And along westbound Highway 370, be prepared for things to start slowing down near Gold Coast Road. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
Looking for a career, not a job? IBEW has immediate openings for residential electricians. You'll receive top pay, fully funded family health care, and retirement benefits. Invest in yourself with IBEW Local 22. Call Michael at 402-810-0789.
Duck Defense Midwest makes your home healthier and improves the life of your HVAC system. So improve the health of your home and everyone in it. Go to cleanairradio.com for a special duct cleaning offer for Zone listeners. That's cleanairradio.com.
Creighton coverage on the Zone is presented by Barry Law. At Barry Law, we fight alongside those who choose to fight back. Call Barry Law at 402-999-7777 or visit BarryLawFirm.com. At Barry Law, we're in it to win it.
If you haven't updated your windows, you could be throwing money out the window. Don't let the cool air out. Upgrade today with J-Tech Construction. For a limited time, get 60 months with 0% interest. Plus, as an added bonus, every window gets a special rated UV upgrade for free. Save money, keep the cool air in, and be happier when you upgrade your windows with the official exterior experts of Nebraska Athletics. For more info, go to yourexteriorexperts.com. Subject to credit approval.
Shine Down, the Revolution's live tour. April 25th, Pinnacle Bank Arena. With special guest, 3 Days Grace. And From Ashes to New. Until now at LiveNation.com. Don't miss Shine Down live.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I'm asking about Prevnar 20 because there's a chance pneumococcal pneumonia could put me in the hospital. Age 65 or older, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I want to be able to keep my plans.
So I'm asking my doctor about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Email me, Connor Happer, with the Connor Happer Show at Connor, CONNOR, at 1620thezone.com. Send me your love, your hate, and maybe a few hot takes. The Zone Inbox, presented by Equitable Bank.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per-ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Brunson doubled, bounce pass hard to Barrett, waiting, left wing three, in and out, Hart the rebound, pitching it out. Brunson fires the three, nails it from straight on. Oh, Jalen Brunson with 29. Knicks up 97-87 with a $1:46 to go, and the fans can feel it in game 4.
Poole with the ball. Right side, Thompson catches, shoots a three. Got it! Big time bucket for Klay Thompson. He hit one to end the third, hits a big one late in the fourth.
Tatum into the lane. Smart fakes the three, dribbled it off of Hunter's foot. Tatum chases it down with 4 to shoot it. Tatum a deep three. He made it! He made it from the logo! 12-point game.
And with the ball in his hands, he's got 31. Off a Conley screen, switch on to Gordon. 7 to shoot, 15 seconds to go in the game. And frees himself, fires on the right wing. 3 and hits! Anthony Edwards delivers again! 34 on the evening. A 4-point lead with 11 seconds left. Clutch!
And we made it through a Sunday in the NBA with no nut shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing, Dylan Brooks? Welcome back in. Hour number 2.
They love them some balls this playoff.
The Knicks fans love their Knicks. They may be touching the money. They're up 3-1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, on National Bucket List Day, that's what today is. Like the
Buckets.
When there is a big time sporting event at the Garden,
Yeah.
it is unbelievable.
Playoff basketball.
Like the Big East tournament is on the bucket list for yours truly. Tonight, the Devils and the Rangers play game 4, and the Devils, after winning in overtime, have a chance to even up at 2 games apiece. The place will be rocking. Friday and Sunday, the Garden was unbelievable for the Knicks and the Cavs. That is on my bucket list to see a big sporting event. I don't want to go see Billy Joel. I don't want to go see Hogan and, wrestling the Iron Sheik at the Garden. I want to go see a Knicks playoff game.
That's a great pull.
So you have that. Boston, that series is over. Thank you, Atlanta, for playing. Dejounte Murray, you ain't going to play in the next game anyhow. You don't bump an official. Then you have Curry, who brought up, Chris Webber is trending yesterday because of Curry, who, even though at the end had great defense.
Yep.
And Golden State survived because Sacramento, that looked like a team that hadn't been in the playoffs because the last 5 minutes of that game, they were completely lost, but they still had a chance to win it. Also, that game yesterday showed the value of Draymond Green. Draymond Green does things so that the Currys and the Thompsons can do their thing, but there is no better defender and no better passer on that roster than Draymond Green.
Yeah, they kind of set the tone early in that game, too, a little bit of back and forth. But I'm good on you to bring that moment up when we think of Steph Curry, when we think of what he does so well. And okay, so it became a 4-point situation because you get the technical free throw, then you get the 3-point shot following that situation. If people are unaware of what we're talking about, Steph Curry essentially had a Chris Webber 1993 Final Four national championship moment where he called timeout and they didn't have one. Fortunately for the Warriors, they were up as opposed to Michigan being down and trying to get a basket that could have either tied or gave them the lead.
Nick, that was huge.
It was.
Because they gave up a free throw in possession, and they were only up 5 with 28 seconds to go.
And you get a 4-point clip right there. It was Foxy at the 3, right? I think. Yes. But so following possession, Steph, I think still probably rattled from that moment. Puts up a runner, doesn't go down. And you're thinking, geez, like he's a bit out of character. But the very next possession that if you're Sacramento, you're trying to win the game, his defense in getting out from one guy to the other and contesting the shot was something I don't know if it's getting enough conversation about just because of that whole last 45 seconds. But I'm glad you brought that up because I was watching that thinking, man, good on Steph. He's overdoing it. He's selling out defensively. Because he's probably looking at a situation of if we lose this game, that's going to be on me, even though we know better, but that situation people are going to point to. So, yeah, that was a heck of a defensive effort.
Yeah, I've never seen him make in 14 years see a mental mistake like that.
And I think it did get to him.
Well, when it happened, I was like, really did he just Weber?
Well, the look on Steve Kerr's
face.
Yeah. It's like, oh.
And Kerr wore it, but
Fox and Curry, it's become an epic series. It has the feel that whoever wins Game 5 in Sacramento will win the series, and they may win it in Game 6.
Mm-hmm. Come on, Kings.
It's emotional, too.
I'm all in.
It's everything you'd want to have in an early round postseason game because now you not only do you have back and forth, but you got emotions into it, too, which is
a little hate going.
It's got everything you'd want.
I think I do believe, any game that involves Draymond Green and everybody's woofing at each other, I don't think it's on the level of the beef that is real between the Grizz and the Lakers who play again tonight.
No.
Now, the game that probably finished after a lot of you went to bed, the Ant-Man and the Joker got after each other. And so Ant Edwards goes off. He scores 34, and good on the Timberwolves. I mean, they're done. I know the fans had fun, and they were like, Timberwolves in 7.
They at least got a win.
But you know what? You're done.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be out in 5. And good on the Pups because they could have just, gotten to the fetal position and took a beating and gone out in 4, but they were up, and then Joker took over in the fourth quarter, got the game to overtime, and then the T-Wolves pull it out in overtime. And it's always this postseason when, I would say that more people saw De'Aaron Fox play for Kentucky than they've seen him play for Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody watched Ant Edwards at Georgia because when he was drafted, people were like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
So, but because of his dunking and some other things, he's become really, really popular. I don't know how you can be a Timberwolves fan and have a normal life because you have Karl Anthony Towns, which is a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
You have Rudy Gobert, who I wish the Joker would have punched him all the way to Duluth. and then you have a guy that, in terms of young, exciting difference maker, is like, man, is Kevin Garnett entering the building dressed as Anthony Edwards? So I don't know how you'd run the gamut of being a Timberwolves fan because they are so frustrating.
Yeah.
But he had a big night. So he had 34, and he's got the wild stat of what's at this 5th 30-point playoff game before the age of 22.
Yeah.
Folks, LeBron in his first playoff series or his first playoff year played 13 games. 8 times he had 30 or more. He rolled out of bed. Okay, it's cool for Edwards, but let's let's not bury that LeBron did that in his first year. You know whose night was better, in my opinion, was Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, Joker was unbelievable in that game for the Nuggets, and they were lollygagging most of that night. They were like, you know what, we'll finish this in 4. Who cares what it looks like?
Yeah.
It did point out that for them to go far, it's not just the Joker. They got to have Jamal Murray. When Jamal Murray doesn't score at a pretty consistent clip, they're not going to beat the upper echelon team. So they need, everybody needs a combo. Like Brown and Tatum yesterday, both had over 30. And when they both score over 30, they're like 22-1. Joker and Murray, I think, at least have to get 20 every night for them to continue their run towards the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and it's very similar to what we've talked about with, is AD going to show up or is he not going to show up? If AD shows up, you like where the Lakers are. If he doesn't, nope, probably not going to happen. The same thing with Jamal Murray, too. I get it, they're different positions of players, but having that 1-2, and, that was a part of the game, too, last night. I'm watching a little bit of that, and also Caitlin Clark night, too. Good job. That was about as uninspired outside of Joker, about as uninspired as I think you're going to see a team that is a legitimate title contender. Where I never feel like anybody's using a opportunity to just sort of maybe go through the motions, but not exert too much energy. But there were times, and it wasn't. I think Charles Barkley said at halftime, because this game is boring as hell. He started watching the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Happens
But
every year with
kind of
them.
what it was. It was just sort of.
It's good when they have crossover.
It was kind of a yawner, and a lot of that was from Denver. Like Minnesota, I mean, they're scrapping. They're trying to save their season. Yet you've got Denver. That's just. I mean, they're kind of presenting a product where you're just kind of like, yeah, Chuck, I don't blame you. Like it was just very lethargic. And
that's why they don't strike me as a true 1 seed.
Oh, well,
they're still good.
I'm not going to read too much into that. They were up 3-0. And
yeah,
the championship teams close.
Yeah, but even going through the motions last night, they were still winning.
Right. I mean, and that was kind of the funny thing of the difference between those two organizations and rosters right now is you could see Minnesota like at times pressing so much that there was some sloppiness in their play where as opposed to it looked like the Nuggets were just kind of, okay.
And they'll win by 20.
It was almost like a shoot around for them compared to Minnesota. Like they were really clawing. Yet, again, look at the series. The Nuggets still had a pretty solid, not solid lead, but they were leading for much of that way. But hey, good on the T-Wolves, man. I mean, and the way that they're sort of building that, I was looking at something last night on how impactful just not getting swept was, for this organization. And it's,
at least they didn't 1-2-3 Cancun, so you give them that.
That is true. But I mean, the highlight too. Again, you had Caitlin Clark in attendance, so she wasn't going to let them lose because I feel she was pro T-Wolves, right?
Yeah, those cold weather places need to stick together.
I thought she was pro T-Wolves.
The closest NBA team to Des Moines.
Yeah.
And it looked like they showed her on screen, and she had T-Wolves fans around him, and she was interacting with them. So I would think she was pro.
Will she be at the NFL draft? She's a Chiefs fan. Should be there on
Thursday.
Did not know that.
Could be the Caitlin Clark tour. She should be.
All right, 7:10. Jimmy's got an update here in a little bit. So back to Saturday in Lincoln and a little bit of nostalgia. They unveiled that thing that came out on the motorcycle. Am I going to be in the minority here? That thing is odd. So there's something wrong with the face.
Yeah, the eyes.
The eyes are really so the new Herbie that was unveiled, and it was cool how they did. I mean, that's Ted Carter's motorcycle that he got. That he came out, and then of course they had the high-tech T-shirt cannon, which I thought was a hot dog shooter, but instead they can shoot off 114 T-shirts in 10 seconds.
Damn!
I vote for hot dogs though.
I thought it was hot dogs. Who wants a T-shirt? I want a hot dog. So
same.
So it's spooky. Like the thing has the face is all messed up. The eyes are really, really weird.
True. Agreed.
The
eyes, the way that they
be good on the field so we don't have to talk about the damn mascot.
Uh-huh.
But that thing is weird.
The eyes, the way they go with the sort of like, I don't want to, not on a Monday after the spring game, call it creepy, but the
spooky,
the smile with those eyes aren't necessarily a warm, inviting smile to me. They're more of a "don't turn your back on me" smile. That's the best way I can describe it.
It didn't strike me, and I went, "Oh man, that's cool." I went, "What the?"
Yeah, the eye, but I think I start with the eyes on it. The eyes are a little out there.
As part of the whole weekend, you unveil that, and again, the entrance and how they did it was pretty cool. They did a video and H to the ERBIE, Herbie, when he came out. I don't know if they showed that on television, you guys.
I did not see
but
that.
So the other part of the weekend, besides the game, and then the game to me was the most important, but it was cool for Coach Solich. And Frank was back with his entire family and some other people that he has worked with, like Tim Albin, who replaced him at Ohio, who was here on this staff with him, was back with his family. So it was great to see Coach Albin. And Frank was Frank, okay? He was humbled. He doesn't say a lot. You saw that when he spoke at halftime. So I got to spend a little bit of time with him, and I said, what the heck are you going to be doing in Boise, Idaho? And he essentially said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they've owned that house for a long time, so they've never really lived in it.
Yeah.
But now his son lives there, so they're going to live there.
That's kind of what he said on Friday, where he said, "I'm not sure what it's going to be like. That's where we live." That's all he was. That's where we're at.
But he is very encouraged by Matt Rule. Like he thinks there's things in place that he's doing that will give them a chance at success. And so I said to him, "Did you know that they were going to name the locker room after you?" Because they kept that a really good secret, like a really, really good secret. I mean, you have Devaney has an arena named after him. Osborne has a field named after him. And now Solich has a locker room. I still think that having an arena named after you is bigger than anything.
I agree.
Then you could get into a debate about a field compared to a locker room, because where do you spend more time?
True.
That's on the post Mornings with Sharp and Handley show today. But I said, "Did you know?" And he said, "Yes," before they announced it. And so I said, "Is that how they got you back?" And he said, "Yes." So the tipping point was essentially, we're going to name the new locker room after you, and you're going to find out on social media, or you're going to find out in person.
It'd be really weird if you found this out like secondhand.
But they said, "This is what we want to do. Everybody involved wants to do for you." And he was typical Frank. He, the little emotion that he shows, that was a big deal. And then of course, Friday night, I mean,
that looked
Barry
cool.
Alvarez, T.O., Lance Leipold was back. I mean, I knew that was emotional to him. But as I was thinking about the last 5+ months of everything that has gone on with Matt Rule being involved in the community, reaching out to former coaches, having a relationship with T.O., really, really furthering his relationship with Coach Solich, and not just, "Hey, it's right to have you back," but in a dialogue about football. And the fullback, being part of the Nebraska offense, the I formation, all of that, all of the stuff that's happened in the last 5+ months, like reaching back into the nostalgia of Nebraska football. If I would have told you all of that, and you don't follow Nebraska football, and I said, when all of this stuff went on, who was the head coach? Who would you say?
When all this stuff went on.
When all this stuff went on, who was the head coach?
Of the fullback and everything you just laid out there, Tom Osborne.
I immediately said, what Matt Rule is doing is what Scott Frost, I thought, would do. That he would come back.
Yeah.
And he would mend some fences. He would send some olive branches. He would check the ego at the door, do it for the best of Nebraska, and go from there.
But that's why people were excited.
But it's a guy that has no connection to here before he was hired at the end of November that has done all of those things.
Yeah. So on Friday, first thing that I noticed when I was listening to that presser later on Friday night, when he was asked about, the process of coming back, and he had said, his comfort level, that he's much more comfortable with, everybody who's in place. And when you mentioned Scott Frost, the first thing I thought of when he said Matt Rule is basically the first to reach out, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Scott, I would assume there's a relationship there. And I don't look, I know it's easy to pile on Scott. I get that. And I think sometimes that's kind of the same thing that we did with like Mike Riley with, issues on the field and whatnot.
No, stop, sir. I don't think it's piling on. I think it's just truth.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at. I think this is more confusing to me of how that didn't happen in the 5 years that Scott was there. How that didn't happen when there was this, especially those first year plus, where there was this major sort of retro look back to the way things were in Husker Power and the amount of people who spoke to the team, the amount of players that Scott Frost from the past, his old teammates that he brought in to speak to the team, that you would think if someone was having some type of dialogue with Frank Solich and trying to be the coaching staff, or at least the era of coaching that, Frank returns to, you would think it'd be one of their own, especially a guy who was around Scott Frost and Frank Solich. So that was the first thing when he said Matt Rule was the first one to kind of reach out to him. That stunned me that Scott Frost never did. I was literally stunned by that. That I felt like, okay, maybe he forgot to mention Scott, or maybe the conversations that he had with Scott were more just about, being a coach and what to expect at Nebraska. And maybe, unfortunately, it never got to the topic of, hey, by the way, would love for you to be here, or would love you to see our game against Colorado, or would love to see you come out here even for practice and talk to the guys. I'm stunned that was never presented to Frank Solich from a guy that Frank obviously knows very well.
Yeah, all of this stuff, you would have thought in the first 5 months of the Scott Frost era that he would have done that instead of Matt Rule doing it. But it's done. They've made a step forward, and now they can kind of start focusing on the game of football and winning football games. One final thing on Frank's Saturday, the 45 that was on the field. So that's the attention to detail. The font was the same font that the jerseys had when Frank was playing in the 60s. I thought that was really, really cool, because you would think, hey, just paint the 45 on the field. No. But they did the font of that 45.
Yeah, it's kind of got like the curve. That was neat.
I noticed that in that overhead shot on Twitter. I was like, yeah.
Hey, and that overhead shot, one final thing, and then we'll get an update from Jimmy. So I don't know if they always say don't read the replies when somebody tweets something.
Oh, I know where you're going.
So the first reply when the Husker account did that is some guy basically said, how come you don't do the 35, the 25, the 15?
Oh, my God.
Because he didn't know that Frank wore 45.
Yeah.
And then for the next hour, this guy gets dunked on. Now, the guy was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that he wore it.
Okay.
I'm like, what do you think we are, LSU?
The 20 to the 15 to the 10 to the 5 to the 9 to the... Yeah.
All right. 20 past the hour. Amy Just coming up in the next hour. Her thoughts on Saturday and now what is ahead. It'll be a pretty important spring, or a summer, that is, for Nebraska. And our guys that run the football walking around campus with a football tucked under their arm today.
Darnell Jefferson.
Don't overlook that. That's 2 straight weekends where putting the ball on the carpet has been an issue. It was in the final scrimmage, and it definitely was on Saturday. All right, here's an update with Jimmy.
Anybody else brings me this football but you, make you wish you weren't born. Angelo Castellano had a pair of RBI singles as Omaha beat Gwinnett 5-3 yesterday at Werner Park to avoid a sweep. The Stripers entered this.
I was told you said that they call them the Strippers, right?
Connor said they were called the Strippers.
Yeah, that they are just kind of known, somewhat humorously as the Strippers.
Okay, because see, if I had said that,
no, you weren't wrong.
Your mind's in the gutter.
Right. You're technically right, but it's a Monday. We can say Strippers.
How about strippers and holes? And anyway, they entered the series 2-13, but they won the first 5 games. The Storm Chassers fell behind again Sunday after Gwinnett scored 3 times in the first inning. See, it doesn't work. Omaha is now 8-11. They open a 6-game series at Nashville tomorrow night. That'll be fun. The town, that is. Trailing 7-1 heading to the bottom of the 4th. Senior Andrew Meggs capped an epic rally with a walk-off single on the bottom of the 9th as Creighton baseball swept the season series from St. John's at the Chuck They went 8-7. They're now 18-14. I had to read this twice to make sure this was right. They will host UNLV in a 2-game series beginning tomorrow.
That was a huge win yesterday because they could have cashed it in on a Sunday on a getaway day.
Mm-hmm.
If they win in the first 2 games, they're down 7-1. For Creighton to come back and sweep that series, which puts them in a good spot to make sure they're one of the 4 for the Big East. But I wonder what happened to Tommy Steyer. So Tommy Steyer pitched great yesterday, and he went 4+, but left, I think, due to an arm injury.
Yes.
But he was lights out. I mean, that's a good culture win for Creighton yesterday. Because they could have been like, it's Sunday. We won the series already.
It was funny. They chased him into center field. They were going to mop him regardless of where he went. Like, he could have gone to the parking lot. It's like, we're going to get you.
Yeah, it was a broom weekend in Omaha because the Mavs swept Lindenwood.
That they did. This is some people have kind of let this slip, and you mentioned this a little bit ago. The NBA investigating Hawks guard DeJounte Murray. His actions towards officials at the end of Atlanta's 129-121 home loss to the Celtics in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference first-round series. Wouldn't have happened when he played in San Antonio, I can guarantee you that. He had 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists in 40 minutes during the game, which saw the Celtics take a commanding 3-1 series lead. He appeared to make contact with a referee as he was walking off the floor. Murray then turned back and pointed and yelled at someone before exiting the court. In these situations, the NBA typically makes a decision on discipline before the next game of the series. The Hawks will likely be eliminated by the Celtics in Boston tomorrow night in Game 5. And I might have missed this Saturday night. No, LeBron didn't. Memphis Grizzlies forward Dylan Brooks believes the perception of him as a villain factored into him being called for a flagrant foul too, and ejected early in the third quarter of Saturday's Game 3 loss to the Lakers. Brooks, who declined to comment after the game, explained after Sunday's practice that his left hand striking LeBron James' nether regions was an accident as he attempted to steal the ball, or 2 balls, while the Lakers star dribbled up the court. Brooks said he received an explanation from referee Mark Davis, the crew chief for the flagrant 2, but speculated that his reputation influenced the decision. He says, the media making me a villain, the fans making me a villain, and then that just creates a whole different persona on me. So now you think I intended to hit LeBron James in the nuts? I'm playing basketball. I'm a basketball player. So if I intended, and that's whatever is in the flagrant 2 category, if you think I did that, that means you think I'm that type of person.
What did you guys think about that? Dylan Brooks aside, what did you guys think about that?
Either LeBron is well endowed or LeBron is he embellished it a little.
Okay, thank you.
But still,
that's where I'm at.
We've been on the so
he's good at embellishing.
We agreed we were on Team Scherzer during the ejection with the sticky substance.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy that kind of there was something else? Oh yeah, we were on Draymond, Team Draymond, and now. Are you saying, can you be on Team Brooks on this one?
And we had Embiid. And
can you be on Tim Brooks on this one? Because I honestly did think it looked like an attempt, although when it slows down, you see that, the backhand, which I know we've all done to our buddies before when you're kind of walking by and you just give them a little, yeah. So I think he was in a position where he could execute that. But I got to say, Brooks made it look like an attempt to swipe at the basketball, not the other ball we're discussing here. But you would have thought LeBron got shot in the calf.
Yeah, LeBron's known for embellishing.
He
will reenact the Zapruder film, Ed. It's like, yeah.
So, but here's the thing. If you're going to be the heel, you got to be a heel. You can't blame everyone else.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
you got to go all in.
Yeah, I don't like the reaction. I don't like his dialogue post incident, but I thought it was weak.
Kind of like in the Bad Boys documentary where Isaiah goes, well, it would be the Oakland Raiders.
Let's just say this. Joel Embiid's looked a lot more problematic than what Dylan Brooks did.
You know what? When you poke the bear and the bear pokes back, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Now, can he do it again tonight? But Dylan Brooks, if you're going to do this stuff and you're going to put your team out there, and the only thing that had going for him was Ja, who had 45, including 22 straight in the fourth quarter, I ain't talking after the game.
Right.
Get out of here. No, people stop putting a microphone in front of him. If you're going to embarrass your team and you're going to put him in that situation where you poke the bear and then after the game goes, I ain't talking. What do you want to be? If you want to be the heel, don't blame other people.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
And then don't wonder why people have labeled you like that. Come on, get out. You don't play that role very well.
I'd agree. I would totally agree with that.
Vince McMahon said, hit the streets, buddy.
The incident itself, though, I thought, kind of weak.
Memphis should be embarrassed. They did not show up. It wasn't just LeBron is like, I'm going to show you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, what, he got in his face before the game?
Yeah. Had like the public confrontation.
Yeah. I mean, an interesting game to watch tonight.
Wanted everybody to see it.
And then you got Miami and Milwaukee, which Giannis may or may not play. It's a weird series.
It's a very weird series.
Yeah,
Bucks are in some trouble.
I don't know. As a guy that roots for the team that's up 2-1, we don't have Hero.
Oladipo got hurt. That
It
sucked.
was incredibly.
Yep.
That was an awful injury, and he's gonna. I mean, that might end his career because that would be the second major injury.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just Jimmy Butler is carrying him, but I still don't think Jimmy Butler's played great. It's just a weird series. It feels like 2-1 should be Milwaukee, but the Heat are just kind of hanging around. We'll see what happens tonight.
Waiting for them Knicks. One win away.
Zoe and Ewing.
Once Giannis gets back on the floor, then it's scary.
It's over.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. 27 past the hour. We come back. More on what happened on Saturday and what's going to happen ahead. We'll talk about the quarterbacks because you all can pick your fighter. You must declare, are you a Jeff Sims? Are you a Casey Thompson fan? Or you go with a wild card. And how big is the gap between QB1 and who is next? All of that to come. Amy Just from the Journal-Star in an hour as well. On Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Hey, guys, one thing you don't have to worry about picking is the right SUV when it comes to getting 0.9% APR on select 2023 Mazda CUV models at Woodhouse Mazda. They've got the Mazda CX-50, the brand new, all put together. This thing is awesome. It is perfect for the outdoor adventures, too. Plenty of cargo space in that one. You're going to love the way it feels. The CX-30, great for whatever lifestyle you have, or drive what I drive, the CX-5, which I've loved for the last 5 years. And when you choose Woodhouse Mazda, car buying is on your terms. You can check them out in their 2 exclusive Omaha Metro locations, a showroom at 144th and Giles Road in Millard, or in Bellevue off of Highway 75. But when it comes to convenience in the sales experience, which is something that I've loved for over 20 years, and it keeps getting better, you just shop online and you can start your deal from wherever you are. And with available driveway delivery, they are delivering convenience every time. Again, enjoy 0.9% APR on select 2023 Mazda CUV models today. Get yourself into your next spring adventure in style with a brand new Mazda CUV from Woodhouse Mazda. Woodhouse Mazda, a drive worth experiencing.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone. And 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. The Connor Happer Show.
We don't talk enough about Cracker Jack being mentioned every 7th inning stretch, being the best ad placement of all time.
Great take.
Is Cracker Jack the worst ballpark snack?
Like, even out of the snacks, it's like the 5th best option. They get a free entry into every ballpark in America. You go up to the concession stand, it doesn't matter what game, hey, can I get a bag of Cracker Jack? And they're like, sure. Nobody's bought one in 14 years.
The Connor Happer Show. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A little bit more mild Monday with partly to mostly cloudy skies. There's a slight chance for a late day shower, though most will stay dry. Highs in the low to mid 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can't expect a significant slowdown from 102nd to 90th along L Street. On Dodge, be prepared for things to slow down a little bit from 80th to 72nd. And on Center, it looks like things are slowing down just a little bit from 192nd to 186th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by JM Online.
Attention business leaders. Need a website that generates leads and looks the part too? Awarded Omaha's best website developers in 2023, JM Online creates custom websites to meet unique business needs. Take your online presence to the next level at jmonline.com and request a call today.
Email any of our shows anytime into the Equitable Bank inbox. At Equitable, we take banking personally. For me, John at 1620thezone.com. The Equitable Bank inbox from 1620 The Zone.
Creighton coverage on The Zone is presented by Barry Law. At Barry Law, we fight alongside those who choose to fight back. Call Barry Law at 402-999-7777 or visit BarryLawFirm.com. At Barry Law, we're in it to win it.
Do you know the common signs of transmission trouble?
Your engine revs before falling into gear. Shifting is rough, or you're leaking reddish-brown fluid.
Knowing the signs could mean repair instead of replace.
That's where we come in. We're certified transmission.
The job done right at the right price.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Woohoo! Snarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
It's midweek action for the Creighton Blue Jays as they play host to the UNLV Runnin' Rebels. Pre-game coverage begins at 5:45. First pitch at 6 o'clock. Tuesday night baseball, the Creighton Blue Jays are on 1180 The Zone.
Make the right call, fans. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Rooferees. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
I know, Jimmy, you were down in Lincoln on Saturday. I don't know if you'd noticed this, and I haven't paid as much attention, but the mayoral race in Lincoln appears to be quite nasty. Like two ladies just going at each other, Geist and Baird.
That's all I saw were these Geist signs.
I was wondering if maybe you got to meet the
they had rosters with her name on them.
If they were there to greet you as you walked in.
Well,
welcome Memorial Stadium, vote for me.
Well, you remember, like, I don't know, before they put restrictions in or whatever happened, when it was political season, there would be the politicians would be standing outside of the stadium and they would hand you those rosters.
Yep.
That would have their campaign information on it. And I guess Geist has all kinds of flyers. Like she's just bombarding the city of Lincoln with flyers.
Should just give out hot dogs.
Hot dogs and a hug. But it's like super nasty. And I saw a couple of clips they had a debate yesterday on one of the TV stations. But I did notice this. I think the Geist campaign will be getting a phone call. She is in one of her ads. She is showing a picture of her and the old Herbie Husker.
Ooh, frat Herbie?
Yeah.
Oh,
see how she rolls.
I'm no lawyer, but I think that's a violation of branding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the university probably will be in contact with her.
Especially when it comes to political campaigns. Like,
Yeah.
I thought maybe she was throwing the bones.
Yeah. So I need to learn
Or
more
had
about
Lil
their
Red.
mayoral race because it appears to be like super nasty. Like it's dividing the city.
Oh,
And they're just throwing haymakers at each other. All right, two chicks fighting.
We've had coaches divide that city. We don't need the mayor to be doing that too, or the mayoral race doing that. Come on, there's too much division going on. Jeez.
Just have a little fight. Have Lil Red be the referee. Just all chaos.
When it
at
comes
that
to
point.
Nebraska branding, I feel like they might be yourself in a little trouble there.
They do have some lawyers that are on retainer.
Yeah.
Little Red, much to the dismay of yours truly, after the spooky, pimply-faced Herbie Husker showed up, Little Red disappeared. He was there briefly, and then,
Okay. So
even though the recruits
there was
like Little Red, recruits love Little Red more than new spooky Herbie.
Do you know that for a fact?
Oh yeah.
Would you?
Breland from California.
Oh, okay.
He did a selfie with Little Red.
We're going for it. We're going.
Yeah, because I'd seen. I was going to tag you on these. I saw a couple pictures on Twitter of Little Red. Looked like he was outside the stadium, maybe making an appearance or two at some of the pregame festivities. But yeah, I was curious.
Major tailgate.
Yeah, Yeah, that's what Little Red's doing now these days. It's like actors being on Cameo.
Then again, I'm the one who tried to rent a camel for a party. So
yeah, I need the paycheck. But I wasn't aware because like during the BTN broadcast, I wasn't sure if I just wasn't seeing the images from their cameras of Little Red, but I didn't know if Little Red had a strong presence in Memorial City.
Not really.
It was all about New
It was
Herbie.
just early and he was gone.
It was a day about New Herbie than Frank.
That's okay. In about 20 years, they'll bring Little Red back. We'll have a big ceremony.
It'll have to be a key mascot that will be able to mend the fence and bring Little Red back.
Yeah, and they will name like the changing room at the stadium
Yeah.
after Little Red.
Yep.
So
This is how it works.
This is for you, Jimmy, and anybody else. This is an observation. So Nebraska football right now, as of right now, they're at 99 scholarships. They're going to have to get down to 85, but not until the start of camp. So, but this week there's going to be some guys that are like, you know what, time to move on. They also are doing something this week. They are having not exit interviews, but end of spring interviews with the head coach and the position group. So it's going to be a busy week, but they're really good on communication. I've figured that out. You got a guy that has his hand in everything that is the head coach. And some might say he's a micromanager, but that's probably what this program needs is somebody that knows everything that's going on. But he wants to talk to all the players to get a kind of a feedback of how their spring was, what they can do better. It was startling to hear him also drop the line. Some of these guys have been here for 3-4 years, and they've never done this before. I was like, ooh, okay.
Shocking revelation number 2 over the weekend.
But that
was it.
But the communication is huge in this program. Okay, communication on the field, whether you're playing, on defense or communication from the head coach down. I think everybody kind of knows where they stand, is what the impression I'm getting. But when he said that, I was like, whoop, that's okay. That's a very subtle. Was that against Dion or was that? But for him, first of all, I think that's a great idea, especially after your first spring. And some guys are going to make decisions on what their future is like here. It's a no-brainer.
I just assumed it happened. That's why I was.
Oh, I did too. I thought that's just a natural thing. Get some feedback, but apparently it has not. But the other thing, did you notice, Jimmy? Because I said this to a couple of people right away. I know Nebraska had a lot of guys injured, and I mean, you saw a lot of guys that were dressed as Rihanna's Super Bowl dancers in the all-white tracksuits that they
look
had.
like hazmat.
Nifty. I would have gotten stains on them.
And they have cut down the roster. Like it's not the 150 that it was not very long ago. It's like got into the 130s for spring with the transition of graduates and freshmen are not here yet. They had a little over 100 players that have been involved in spring, maybe 110. Did it look like there weren't many guys that were dressed to you?
I kind of got that impression.
It did.
I just thought it was my eyes.
When they walked onto the field, when they first came into the stadium, and I was waiting for Rule to be dressed in all red so he could be Rihanna as the dancers were coming out of the tunnel.
He did have some nifty red shoes, though.
I was like, man, there aren't very many players. Like, are they going to be able to pull this off? Because it just didn't seem like they had many players. And I don't know how many they fully dressed, but it didn't seem like they had a large number of guys that were playing. I counted up on the roster. They're at 109 right now that are actively involved in the program, and 99 of those are scholarship guys. I may be completely off on the numbers, but it just looked like they didn't have very many guys that were, dressed on Saturday to play football.
Yeah, again, I saw it from a different vantage point than you guys did, but the fact that you saw guys that you saw early possessions in the first quarter, kind of late in the game, would lead me to believe that they were utilizing everything they had, which would also lead me to believe that they probably didn't have the same types of numbers that they've had in previous games.
And they protected some guys.
Springs.
Like Fedoni wasn't going to spend all day on the field.
Right.
Fedoni was out there for the first series and then
caught a ball.
He was peace out.
Yep. Yeah. So just based on participation at even in the third and the early fourth quarter of the game, I would say that probably makes sense on what you guys are probably seeing there at the stadium.
Now, one of those guys dressed in the white tracksuit was Casey Thompson, who threw a little bit before the game. How is he going to make up ground on Jeff Sims?
That's what I've actually wondered when we've talked about that. I mean, that's a lot of time that you haven't been.
Are they going to be charting 7-on-7 during the summer?
I bet they will.
Yes.
I mean, I think
whenever he gets fully clear,
I think they're charting everything. But yeah, I think they will.
But you can't make up for all that time you lost during the spring, whether good or bad. It's a lot of time.
Now,
a lot of work.
Saturday did show you that Casey Thompson's an asset to the program.
Yep.
Yes.
That if you have a combo of Sims-Thompson, you may not have to worry about that position. Now, that's not a position that still, in my opinion, is going to overwhelm you and single-handedly win you games. But a Sims-Thompson combo, much better than Sims,
Harburg, Torres,
Space, Harburg,
Purdy, any of them.
But is Casey going to feel comfortable enough that he would have a shot when they get to fall camp? Because Sims was okay. He was by far the best quarterback. He was okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
It's not like he's running away with the thing.
But he had a really good, like, you have to weigh in. It's 15 practices, not just one game.
Apparently, the majority of them were very good.
So the impression that he gives you is he is QB1. But what's the gap like? And how does Casey Thompson feel about his ability to get into the mix before they announce the starter ahead of Minnesota?
Well, it goes back to what you just said. You don't need them. You don't need to win games because they're winning games for you, the quarterback position. But when we've seen the injury situation for Nebraska at that position for years now, if there is a significant drop-off between your QB1, QB2, that's an issue given the fact that you want to run the football with your quarterback. Jeff Sims is a big guy, but Jeff Sims takes a bad shot or something freakishly happens. What are you rolling out there in a situation that could be prolonged, which, given history, we've seen that a lot where the backup, hell, even the third-string quarterback has had to been used in more than just maybe a series because a guy lost his helmet. That was a takeaway from Saturday of, this is what's behind Jeff Sims. Try not to overreact to it because it's practice 15, one of 15 practices that we saw. I know some people have seen more, but that was very underwhelming. Everything behind Jeff Sims to me, just in the way that they were kind of operating the offense, was very underwhelming. And unfortunately, the things that we saw from even Chuba, we saw last year too. Didn't see like, he looks like he's really improving. There's a kid that's got college football experience too, even as a starter. Looks like he's improving. Maybe there is something there with that, but didn't show up on the field. I mentioned Richard Torres. Looks like there's some good mechanics when he throws the ball.
Got a good arm.
But still a little bit erratic. Heinrich Harburg, you can tell he can run. Athletic kid. But again, if we're looking at if your options did not include Jeff Sims or Casey Thompson to start a quarterback for Nebraska, how would you really feel today?
And
I don't think I'd feel really good right now.
You need two solid quarterbacks at that position because the odds are that there's going to be something that happens, an injury or something that comes up. And if you don't have that, then yes, you're in trouble if one goes down. So they're both equally important, regardless of who starts and who doesn't, because you're going to need them. The odds are you're going to need that second quarterback.
See, it's clear, you guys, we talked about this all spring, is that you got to be able to run the ball out of that position. That threat of the quarterback running. And the thing I like about Jeff Sims, and I think this is improved, is he doesn't have happy feet. And the pass pro wasn't great and that's another work in progress. And also Nebraska's defense did some things that they made it so that they were getting to the quarterback. But Jeff Sims doesn't immediately just take off. I like that he's stuck in the pocket a little bit longer. But if he needs to run, he's going to run with some power. And he's got an arm. He threw some darts. And again, I like him throwing the long ball more than the intermediate, which that percentage has got to get better. But he clearly knows how to operate the offense at the end of the day. He knows how to operate the offense. Okay. He can get you in and out of some things. He's making a step with the verbiage. If this was game week of Minnesota, I think you would feel comfortable with Jeff Sims as your quarterback. You would be going, oh my gosh, that's going to be a question mark. But Saturday also reiterated that Casey Thompson needs to be on the roster in the fall.
I would
not necessarily have to be the
totally
starter,
agree.
and I don't know how he makes up that ground, but he needs to be on. Nebraska has to have both of those guys as a 1 and a 2.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people went into Saturday, just casual fans that have been following along with the praise that Heinrich Harburg has been getting, and kind of see the writing on the wall of like, okay, Jeff Sims is maybe emerging as your clubhouse leader. If Casey were to sort of also get that feeling and decide to leave, would Nebraska be in such a tough situation given, the supposed emergence of Heinrich Harburg? And I think you always had to factor in the things that he does in any offense that can bring a lot of value and his experience and just asset. But I think, as we talked about, it'd be very important for Jeff Sims to have a good spring game to maybe sort of calm people's nerves about the quarterback position for Nebraska. It was, in a way, for Casey, it sort of reintroduced the importance and value of having him around, given the fact that Heinrich Harburg, who didn't have such a great spring game, maybe people are like, oh, okay. So maybe there is still a lot of work to be done, and there is, but maybe he's not so close to Jeff Sims to where if we lost Casey, this wouldn't necessarily be a good situation for Nebraska to be in. Because I think that showed a lot of people that there is a gap.
Yep. Who would be your 3? You had to pick a number 3 guy right now. Who would be your 3? There's all the questions. Your QB1, I think, has been decided.
Yep.
I think that's Jeff Sims when you open up against Minnesota. Here is Matt. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. That's what was going through my mind is on Saturday too. Is like Harburg. He didn't at times. He almost. I think he's potentially a good runner, but at times he seemed almost awkward in now how he initiated contact and so forth. But not as good a runner as I thought he would be, honestly. But if Casey, if we need Casey to stay, first of all, what do you think? NIL wise, what do you think he's being offered behind the scenes to stay? Because I'm sure there's people that are going to come after him. And then number 2, we're probably going to lose some quarterbacks. And so who do you guys think are the most likely to transfer? I think we need at least 1 or if not 2 to transfer. These interviews that Rule's doing today and this week, who do you think he's going to talk into exploring other options?
Matt, thanks for the call. I'll address the second one. I think Richard Torres is someone you want to still work with. I don't know. Now, that would be the second transfer if a guy like Chubba says, I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what his end game is. If Chubba sees a path to playing football at Nebraska. And then Smothers is a wild card because I think Logan likes being here.
I had Logan transferring to the last two years.
And think about it. If you're telling, hey, we want our quarterbacks to run, that's Logan Smothers, but he didn't go through spring at all.
Right.
They will be down to at least 4 scholarship quarterbacks, I believe, by the time they open up camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you'll ever get to a point here at Nebraska where they have 6 scholarship quarterbacks ever again.
I would think going into the weekend, if you asked me that question of let's assume that both Jeff Sims and Casey are 1A, 1B, who would be number 3, I would have felt pretty confident based on what we were hearing. And even what some people had seen that I would trust, that Heinrich Harburg would be a pretty solid number 3 and a guy that if either one was not an option that could come and run the offense, you feel pretty good and you could get some stuff done. I tend to come in that with a little bit more intrigue on Richard Torres as well. And I understand it was one afternoon that I got to see those two competing in this offense and operating this offense. But just from a throwing standpoint, because you're going to need to throw the football in this offense, just from a throwing standpoint, like what Richard Torres maybe lacks in running the ball compared to Heinrich Harburg, I just mechanical wise, he just looks a lot more sound throwing the football.
Matt's question about Casey's NIL.
I mean, the NIL we know that he's getting here is pretty substantial. And as people are starting to wrap up their spring ball and they're doing inventory, they're looking at quarterbacks. Yeah, I think that there's probably some different opportunities for him, but is it going to necessarily outweigh what he's currently getting at Nebraska? And is it a situation that Casey is willing to go all in on, assuming that, he's going to be brought in to start, as opposed to still thinking that he has a shot to either win the job or be a big part of the quarterback position going forward for Nebraska, because we know he's got a good deal with 1890 as well. So the places that could offer him more, at least from what I know, I don't think they're necessarily looking for the transfer quarterback to come in and start right away. At least not off the top of my head, I can think of one.
I'm Matt Rule. I say, Casey, now once you're cleared, the competition is out there. You don't want to burn that bridge.
No.
Because there's another part of the Casey Thompson who, I mean, in Matt Rule's ideal world, they would just fast forward and Casey would be a GA next year and they would have to worry about that discussion.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that they've started to establish a relationship with Dad. And so Charles Thompson in Oklahoma City is very involved in the football community, the high school football community, the youth football community. He has already made a trip to Lincoln with, I think there were 20 kids from the Oklahoma City area.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nebraska wants to be in Oklahoma.
Yep, that's next
and
level.
And Charles
thinking.
Thompson, if you do right by his son, he'll do right by you, and your word and your program will resonate and have a good, strong backing in Oklahoma City. So it's twofold. So you're not trying to push him out the door. I mean, from Nebraska's standpoint, you need both guys.
Yep.
Okay? You don't need Casey Thompson doing an 11th hour, hey, I'm out. You need him going, Coach, thanks. All right, can't wait for the summer. I can't wait till they clear me and we're good to go. And the coaching staff says, I can't wait either. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Jeff Sims has, got 15 practices under his belt. You do Casey well, and for a while that will benefit you with the whole Thompson family is my belief. But they're not pushing him out the door. I mean, that would be strictly his decision.
No, they need him.
Yeah, they need a Sims and a Thompson and a Sims going into the fall. All right, Matt, thanks for the phone call. Amy Just coming up in the next hour. Plus, we'll talk basketball, Nebraska basketball. How long do you wait on Hunter Salas? And then Creighton. How long will we wait before Trey Alexander and Art Kluma say, hey, don't sell my stuff yet. Don't sell that coffee table. I'm coming back. Plus, Latrell Wrightsell Jr. How about this ironic thing? So over the weekend, he commits to Alabama. Who plays at Creighton this year?
Alabama. Crossed my mind.
Yeah, Alabama. So Trelly will get to play in Nebraska this year. Jacob Bigelow and Joel Lorenzi coming up in the last hour as well. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. Hey, right now you can shop Woodhouse Buick GMC first and experience the difference. Large indoor showroom allowing you to find the new and pre-owned vehicle that meets your needs. You can check out the stylish SUVs that fit the whole family comfortably. Capable trucks to get the job done for business or pleasure. They truly have something for everyone in person and online, where they've streamlined the process at WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. All the inventory is there. You can fill out a credit application, value your trade, purchase a vehicle, do it all at the click of a mouse, and do it with a great deal right now. This is through the end of the month. You got to see dealer for details. You can receive $3,000 off MSRP on the 22 GMC Sierra 1500 SLT or $1,750 off MSRP on the 23 Buick Envision. Again, see dealer for details. These expire at the end of the month. In-store, 119th and I, or online at any time. WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Omaha's most listened to all sports radio station. Again and again and again. 1620 The Zone.
It's time to find a career that's right for you. Metropolitan Community College can help you find a new path forward on your time. Whether you need a degree that puts you on a path to a new career or need to finish a degree you've already started, MCC makes it affordable and convenient with a flexible class schedule, online or on campus. It's your time to path forward. Let MCC show you the way. Register today. Classes start June 6th. Apply today at mccneb.edu/adults.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Hi, this is Kathy Kenoyer with Kenoyer Garden Center. The beauty and color of spring is in our greenhouse, featuring thousands of gorgeous hanging baskets and hundreds of varieties of Kenoyer grown product. Come in and talk with our family of employees who will help you find what you're looking for. Whether it's home decor, annuals, perennials, shrubs, tropicals, or vegetables, we have it all. Kenoyer Garden Center is located between Highway 370 and Cornhusker on 66th Street in Papillion. Open daily, 9 to 7.
At Kenoyer Garden Center, everybody's got a green thumb.
PACE, Police Athletics for Community Engagement Organization, is dedicated to preventing at-risk and disadvantaged inner-city children from becoming involved in street gangs, crime, drug use, and victimization. PACE provides an opportunity to develop discipline, self-esteem, and positive moral values through wholesome competition and free participation in soccer, baseball, CrossFit, and flag football. To help PACE and local families make sure kids have access to safe and fun spring and summer activities, please go to paceomaha.org to support the PACE mission. Thank you.
1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
So I know by now people have either seen highlights or they watch the entire reality TV show that is Colorado football. It's just the hype, man.
Sister Jean with the kickoff.
Whoa.
What?
Wait, I missed something.
Wait, it wasn't?
No. I mean, put some respect on the 98-year-old woman that kicked off the ball. She's not in a wheelchair.
She ain't 101.
She was able to walk out there.
And she's bigger than some of the people that are playing.
Hey, so I did go back and watch it yesterday. First of all, the program, the front man is Dion, and it's a reality show, and it's a smart move by Colorado. And if you want TCU to beat them by 100, it's because you don't like Dion. You don't like his personality, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But they should stop woofing at TCU because just I'm just telling you right now, just don't say anything about TCU. They have so. He's the front man, and the real football help happens behind him. I don't know how good Dion's going to be. So it's all going to be about his staff. Like, I like his OC. Sean Lewis, who he got to come from Toledo, is a good OC. And watching them, their offense will be fast, and they will have a cupboard full of playmakers.
Yeah.
But here's what their issue is going to be, and I think this will be an issue as long as Dion is running that program, is they're going to be undersized defensively. Like their defense looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know it's a spring game. You're not supposed to take things away from it. Their defense doesn't look very good, but they look extremely undersized on that side of the ball, and I just think that's the way it's going to be. Their playmakers will get fast guys. They'll recruit heavily on that side. Defense, okay, if we luck into some guys here or there. But, man, I got some issues on defense. That defense that they rolled out there for that spring game was not very good. They made Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter look pretty good, and they made their guy that went into the portal really good. Yeah. And hopefully he gets to find a good spot because I think that's funny. That he balled out on Saturday, national TV. They talked about him, and now he's in the portal.
Yep.
Along with
smart business.
They had a decommit. They had a 4-star cornerback that decommitted over the weekend as well.
Well, and then I saw, I can't remember if it was Alan Baugh or Naeem Rodman. I think they entered on the same day, but two pretty sizable defensive linemen that had entered on, it would have been some, before the spring game, I think it was like either Thursday or Friday. And I'm looking at their transfer, lack of a better term, transaction wire. But some sizable guys. And I know we're kind of joking around about how they look small from what we've seen. But I mean, these were some big dudes. And I mean, think about Lamonius Craig too. I mentioned earlier, 6'2", 185. That's one of their bigger receivers. It's one of their bigger guys that stood out a little bit on Saturday. That is gone. It's just going to be the roster management and the roster development is going to be so interesting to watch on.
Well, doesn't it feel like they're just going to treat it like free agency in the NFL?
Yep.
And if that's the case, you had better. And maybe they do. Maybe this is where Deion has the utmost confidence that not only he, but his staff is going to be able not only to develop in the long term, but more quickly. Like they can do it within, a 60-day period of getting some guys that have some raw talent, turn it into a little bit more controlled, actual legitimate college football talent. And I would just say this, that doesn't happen a lot in the time frame that you would anticipate with how fluid the transfer portal is and how Deion wants to go about making this roster. That is going to be a tough ask. If they can do it, more power to them. And maybe there is something with Deion in Colorado and what this Colorado team can do. But having the roster identity to see what this team kind of looks like, it's going to be one to follow. One of many things to follow with this program under Deion.
I also think there'll be a lot of favoritism.
Oh, absolutely.
New coaches take over, and sometimes they'll walk the line of my guys or those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Deion worries about that. I think he's got his guys. Have you ever heard him bring up somebody that he inherited?
Nope. No, in fact, if anything, it's...
I mean, maybe he doesn't even know their name. But
that first meeting that went on social media, and all, that told you all you needed to know.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any mention towards the guys that he's inherited, it's always been more about how they're going to have a sort of roster transition. So,
yeah.
Roster influx.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if you're one of Deion's guys, you got a good life, man. They'll take care of you. If you're not, who are you?
Good luck.
Yes. 8:03. Amy Just coming up here in just a little bit. We'll get her thoughts on Saturday. Now, what is ahead? I mean, the checklist of things Nebraska has to work on in the offseason before they play on August 31st against Minnesota, which will be a primetime game, either FS1 or Fox. Those all will start to come out here in the next couple of weeks, by the way, some of the early TV and kick times.
Mm-hmm.
All right, mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone. So now that the spring game is over, you're looking at the schedule for the upcoming year and the oddity that Nebraska goes on the road for the first two. Then they're home for the next three, including Michigan. You do not want to miss Matt Rule's first season at Memorial Stadium. And ticketsforless.com can take care of you. Best selection of seats, best prices, zero per ticket fees. You can find your seats for the upcoming season or any show or any sporting event. Ticketsforless.com is your friend. Download the app right now and find the seats that you want today. And don't forget, when you go to checkout and you have zero per ticket fees, unlike the other sites, you'll get an additional discount when you use my promo code THEZONE. The Zone at checkout at ticketsforless.com.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a delay near 90th and L. Then along Highway 370, be prepared for things to slow down a little bit near Golden Boulevard. And on Center, be prepared for things to start slowing down near 168th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
The Nebraska Lottery has raised over $923 million, which has helped to provide more than 117,000 college scholarships, save wildlife habitats across the state, and fund new facilities at the Nebraska State Fair. The Nebraska Lottery, helping to build a better Nebraska.
Hey, everybody, it's Michael Severe for Rotella's Italian Bakery Bread. You know what tradition is. I mean, you're in Nebraska, so you know what tradition is, right? It's 5 national championships. It's 3 amazing coaches. It's all the great football you remember from the Huskers. I bet you there was a time, though, where you were enjoying a great game and you had a wonderful sandwich in your hand, and it probably was a tradition-filled Rotella's Bakery Bread sandwich. The bread is the key, right? Something's got to hold the meat, something's got to hold the cheese, and that's what Rotella's does for you. Whether it is just a regular white bread or wheat bread, or you're looking for hamburger buns or brat buns or hot buns, whatever you're looking, tailgating, if you're just kicking out in your backyard, whatever it is, you got the bread ready for you from Rotella's. Again, head over to 108th and Harrison or find it at your local grocery store. Rotella's Italian bread, over 100 years of tradition.
If you haven't updated your windows, you could be throwing money out the window. Don't let the cool air out. Upgrade today with J-Tech Construction. For a limited time, get 60 months with 0% interest. Plus, as an added bonus, every window gets a special rated UV upgrade for free. Save money, keep the cool air in, and be happier when you upgrade your windows with the official exterior experts of Nebraska Athletics. For more info, go to yourexteriorexperts.com. Subject to credit approval.
My friend and I are taking a trip to Mexico this year, but neither of us speak Spanish. So we downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language in as little as 3 weeks? Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
Babbel's interactive lessons are created by real language teachers and voiced by real native speakers using a modern conversation-based method. So in no time, you can start speaking confidently about real-life topics in another language.
Nosotras vamos a México en 2 días y ahora hablamos español. Gracias, Babbel. Sí, muchas gracias.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Hi there. Halftime. Brought to you by Heart Cigars and Pipes Lounge. Just off 680 and 48th Street, next to Cubby's. It's Heart Cigars and Pipes Lounge.
A couple of shout outs. The second one is coming here in just a moment. But I did see over the weekend, Retina girls won the 38th in a row.
38th in a row?
38th in a row
Oh
over
my
3
gosh.
years. Not as good as Omaha Duchenne, who won 61 straight back in the 90s.
Wow.
So then, and they won't be able to, well, they will be able to break it, but, you know, when they go to Gretna East. So this is like the last year of just Gretna. It's a big deal in that
That's
community.
impressive.
And they're dominating soccer. Gretna, for the most part, across the board, boys and girls are dominating in sports. Yes, over the weekend, they won the 38th straight in girls soccer.
Soccer's, again, one of those sports where there's a little bit of the if you're a dominant team, there's still a little bit of the unknown. Like I was kind of compared to hockey. That's why I always say a team that, and I'll do a humble brag just because I was on the coaching staff. I didn't do much because they were very good. But 35-0 in 05 for Miller North. That's not easy to do. You start creeping past 15 or 20 in a row in spring sports in Nebraska where the weather, you never know what the hell is going to do. That's an accomplishment. That is a hell of an accomplishment by the Gretna girls soccer team.
All right, update with Jimmy's coming here in a little bit, and the second part of the really, really feel good. I'm going to make the room. Well, I'm not going to, but he did. He's going to make the room get really, really dusty here in just a moment when Jimmy's got the. Whenever, are you ready for it? Oh, hold on, you just tell me when you're ready, and I'll introduce it. Two quick other things about the spring game, and we're going to be talking about this all week long. We got Amy Just at the bottom of the hour. There's like the big if on offense of if and need.
All right.
Like need Fedoni to stay healthy. By the way, this is the longest that Fedoni has been healthy at Nebraska, so knock on wood.
Right.
And they also need Teddy Prohaska to stay healthy during the course of the entire season. I saw him on the sidelines on Saturday. Man, Teddy is such a big boy.
Mm.
I hope he stays healthy because there's a lot to like. He's just a good person. There was another quick takeaway on and we're talking about large men. I was really disappointed in Gilbert. So he had a
his
couple
player
of,
size.
no, not his well.
His size
I still
sticks
think.
out.
Well, I still think he needs to drop some weight.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed. Like he was one of the guys that I thought going into the game. It's like I can't wait to see him play because he's looked good at points during the spring, and he's such a giant man.
Yeah.
And it's a position of need. I mean, Nebraska. I mean, when you take two guys that were buried at tight end and put them on the defensive line, and they actually were okay this weekend. You don't have a lot at tight end, but you have Fedoni if he stays healthy, and he was on a pitch count. I mean, they got him in and they got him out quickly on Saturday. But I was looking forward to seeing Gilbert. Man, I was really disappointed. I was really disappointed in Gilbert's performance.
Yeah, other than his presence, and when they would move him out in the slot, like it reminded me of like Martellus Bennett. Like he's huge. But yeah, had a couple drops. There was one that was.
You can't have the ball hit you between the 8 and the 9.
Right. Like there was, that was sort of a theme. We did see some other drops too. Even Marcus Washington had, like there were guys that had it. But yeah, I think that was definitely a guy I was excited to see, and the performance was underwhelming. I would absolutely agree with that.
I mean, no knock on him because he just keeps showing up and won't go away as much as you might try. Nate Borkshire was their best tight end.
Yeah, he was.
And he's going to be in the mix, but it's the big, you need Fedoni to keep making strides and to stay healthy. And then I think Gilbert's got to drop maybe 15 pounds or so. He's big, but he doesn't look like thick.
Yeah.
Like just, okay, that's a Johnny Mitchell type body.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely still a little bit of a little more line of scrimmage weight there. That especially when he moved out in the slot, you're like, whoa.
That's a position they got to figure out, and then they got to figure out who the third wide receiver is. Kemp and Washington are 1-2. I think there's a lot to like about Billy Kemp, and it'll be the third straight year that the number one wide receiver at Nebraska is a transfer guy. Who cares? But those two guys are your one. They're going to be two of your three starters. Betts is in line to be the third starter. We didn't get to see a lot of Betts, and I don't know how they approached it on TV. Boy, he got dinged. I was worried about Z coming off the field. I mean, he was wobbly. He suffered a concussion, and he's going to be fine. There were no injuries that were like, oh my gosh, they're done.
Yeah, like Corcoran going down. You're like, oh my god.
But he was fine.
Yep, and he came back.
But your top two wide receivers are Kemp and Washington. They'd like Betts to be third. Garcia Castaneda was injured, didn't play at all. So I don't know what his, where he fits in all of this. But they're going to have to work the summer to find a number three. I mean,
Hardy was in there a lot early on.
Yeah.
Just saying.
He
was.
That's a day. Ball out on national TV.
Yeah, right.
And then go get in the portal.
Right.
Update with Jimmy first. But one of the best things that happened all weekend wasn't that we got football back, that the Spooky Herbie is back, or that Frank was honored. It was a guy who I've known since I moved back to Omaha. He is one of the great people that live in our community. And yesterday was a great moment for him. Gooch won on the Corn Ferry Tour. I'm just warning you, for a guy that had a decade and a half had not won, that is a grinder, that has thought about, man, do I want to play professional golf anymore? He went to Southwest Florida over the weekend, and in sudden death, or into the extra playoff hole, banged a 60-foot putt on that first playoff hole to win. And if you haven't won that long, and if you know Gooch, and you know how much the sport means to him, this is great. And this is the best thing that happened all weekend. Yeah.
Oh man, that actually just changed my mood in general. That's cool.
And yeah, because he almost left. I mean,
Yeah.
he was gonna come in here and be a co-host with me. Just kidding.
Hey,
But
we'll never know.
but for him,
Yeah.
because he's what, 46, 47?
Yeah.
He's late
Yeah.
40s. And he's got a great family.
Mhm.
Him and his wife Amy, they got a son that's playing golf at Iowa State. They got another son that's playing golf at Westside. They got a daughter that's going to be a really, really good golfer. I think she's at Duchenne, I believe. Then he's got another son who's younger. The youngest is like really, really good in golf. Man, he's a good guy. I think everybody in town knows Gooch.
Yeah.
And for him to win yesterday, that was fantastic. I was so happy for him. And I hope it opens up the door to a really, really good 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people I know that are always rooting for him, even if it's, seeing him at the Pinnacle Bank Championship on the Korn Ferry Tour or see him at PGA events, the way that he has always kind of carried himself too. And look, the golf, I think the golf community with people who represent it at a professional level maybe don't always get the attention as, some of our professional athletes say in football or baseball. But when you talk about a guy who represents the city of Omaha as good as there's going to be on a professional level, Scott Kuchevsky, from his teaching the sport and also actually playing the sport, when that sort of comes to a head the way it did yesterday for that win and that drought that he had, and then to hear the emotion, there's a guy who clearly is passionate about what he does, but what that moment can still mean to somebody who's been sort of, as you mentioned, grinding it out like that. These are the stories that you love in sports, but especially you see these a lot in golf too. And for a guy that I know this community has embraced for a very long time, of just being there, being present, and putting on a good show at golf tournaments, but also having that ability, because he's a damn good golfer, and obviously he showed it yesterday, still has an ability to get a big win or two.
He's like the ultimate J-sker. I saw that Creighton and Nebraska both claimed him. So he started his golf career at Creighton and then transferred to Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually on the 99 when Nebraska went to the NCAA tournament. He was a Husker then. So he's the ultimate J-sker.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the ultimate good guy, and so happy for Gooch to pick up that victory yesterday.
Yes.
All right. Update time with Jimmy here at the 8 o'clock hour.
You have a chance to watch the video online. I'm talking to listeners. By the way, we're sorry it's not on the stream. It can't go out on the stream, but it can go into the computer when we put the segment on there. But if you have a chance, go look at it and just watch his face as he's talking, and you'll get what I said. Like, it just makes you feel better, and it's a good way to start your Monday. So I'm glad you sent that to me to play. That was good. That's good way to start your week. All right. There's another similar good story coming up. This one's good. Omaha baseball swept their second series of the month. They routed Lindenwood 11-1 in the 7-inning contest yesterday. They are back to just 2 games under 500 at 15-17, and they have a big week this week. And it begins with one of their biggest games of the year as they host Nebraska for the third and final game this season tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Omaha will look to sweep the season series from the Huskers for the first time ever.
What will that be like tomorrow night?
Think about what both of those teams are coming off of too, going into tomorrow night. Some different feelings going on.
Yeah, there might be a little juiced up at Tal Anderson tomorrow night at 7.
Be a decent night to go to a game.
Decent weather.
60 degrees,
Plus, I'll be on the mic. I'll entertain people.
Hey, and it's a 7 o'clock start, right?
Yeah, Chris Crutchfield's throwing out the first pitch.
There you go.
You go change your fastball.
Bring the heat.
I know if he does not throw a strike, I'm going to roast him
on the
PA.
You should.
Here's another good story over the weekend. That movie, I cannot remember the name of it, with Dennis Quaid. Usually I'm good at this. The Rookie? The Rookie. There we go. Yeah. Well, they had a real life situation like that over the weekend in Pittsburgh. Drew Maggi, 33-year-old infielder. He arrived in Pittsburgh just not too long before they played a game, having just been called up from AA Altoona. And he was looking to make his major league debut over the weekend. He was selected with outfielder Brian Reynolds going on the bereavement list. First baseman Ji-Man Choi was transferred to the 60-day injured list with a left Achilles strain. By the way, first place Pirates. Let's not forget that. That's also bearing the lead. And it made room for on the 40-man roster for Maggi. They capped a 4-game series sweep of Cincinnati, so they got revenge for the 1990 NLCS with a 2-0 victory on Sunday. Maggi did not get into the game, but it's still, to get called up, to be able to be there in a big league dugout in a park, it's been a long road for him. He's played 1,155 games across 13 minor league seasons. He was selected by the Twins, but in September of 2021, but didn't appear in a game. So
that's cool. He's he's with the Buccos with Bonds and Drabick, and they're playing well.
Yeah, Jim Leland's got them playing really well. They can just get it done. And
they're 16-7.
Yeah,
wow. They beat up on Cincinnati. So what? Won 7 in a row now.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting pitching. I brought this up the other day about their string of quality starts. They're starting pitching. Like, how long is it going to last? But gosh, they're just a shade over 2 with an ERA over, I think, the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's go Buccos, man. They haven't won the World Series since or been in the World Series since '79.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is like the Bonds and Drabick early '90s teams that were young and they were exciting to watch.
It's easy to root for those teams.
John Smiley.
As long as your team is not, if you are not to benefit from that in the division. But good for you. See, game recognizes game, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, you can feel good. The division you're in is garbage.
It is bad.
Well, the Twins in first at 11-10.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Cleveland's at a nice crisp 500.
Kansas City, there's still hope at 5-17, and
there really is.
Second worst run differential in baseball, next to the A's.
Central's usually garbage in the American League anyway, so it's just nothing new.
Rays Pirates World Series. You heard it here first. Hey, the Astros swept the Braves over the weekend. No real reason for saying that. Just wanted to get it in there. So there they go. They're on their way.
Sure.
Yeah, on their way back. Hockey yesterday. A lot of good stuff. The Hurricanes defeat the Islanders 5-2. Islanders are in trouble. They're down 3-1. And the Boston Bruins seem to be getting things back on track in South Florida as they defeat the Panthers 6-2 yesterday. They now lead that series 3-1. North Stars beat the Wild 3-2 in the battle for Minnesota. Their series is tied at 2. And the Oilers in overtime beat the Kings 5-4, and that series is tied at 2. So got some really good series of playoff hockey. It's the best. And there's 4 games tonight. The Devils and Rangers, we talked about that earlier in game number 4. Maple Leafs and Lightning. In game 4, Toronto leads that series 2-1 down in Tampa. And the Golden Knights and Jets with Vegas leading 2-1. And the Avalanche and the Kraken in Seattle, Colorado leading that series 2-1. And in the NBA tonight, 2 games. The Bucks and the Heat. Will Giannis play? Who knows? Bucks got to do something. They're down 2-1, though the Heat have had injuries ravage the team, with Victor Oladipo being the latest one on Saturday night. And then Dylan Brooks and LeBron James tonight, Grizzlies and Lakers. Lakers looking to go up with a commanding 3-1 series lead. Almost called it the Staples Center again. It'll always be the Staples Center to me. 9 o'clock, the late game, and just the only 2 games tonight.
And I'm Edmonton. That's the team I've adopted in the postseason too. Down 3-0 in that game yesterday, coming back. Let's go. Let's go, Edmonton.
Yeah, they were down 3-0 in the first period, got 3 goals in the second. And then in overtime.
You would have had the certain fan bases would have been booing them after that first period. But Edmonton, hey, good on you. Just keep going. Keep Connor McDavid in the postseason. It's good for hockey.
You get Edmonton, Boston.
Hey, he hasn't even been their best player.
No, he has not.
Draisaitl has been their best player.
He was big in that comeback too. But yeah, just keep more hockey with Connor McDavid. It's good for the game.
Jimmy, you didn't have it in your update, but there was big news out of Hastings, the Bigfoot Conference this weekend.
Yes, shame on me.
Was there a sighting?
I have been wondering over the weekend what feedback we would get from the Bigfoot Conference.
So Harriet, one of our diehard listeners,
good morning, Harriet,
went to the Bigfoot Conference, and he met Harriet, and he told her that he heard her interview on 1620, and she said, "Oh, they're so nice. I really enjoy that." So their big news is the Bigfoot Conference has expanded so much, they are moving out of Hastings. They are going to Grand Island.
Whoa!
To expand the Bigfoot Conference.
Hastings is losing everything.
Are they going to the arena?
Probably.
Whoa!
They're expanding. So they've outgrown the city auditorium in Hastings.
Wow!
I think all because of 1620 The Zone.
We do what we can.
Could Mayor Jean get it to Omaha one day?
Yeah, she got other issues.
I did have. I'm sure you
We're
did
a real
as well.
city. We're a real city, by the way. We got corruption.
Well,
We got city councilman.
that is when you.
Yeah.
When you
We've
have arrived.
We've made it.
Yeah, we
You've
have.
arrived.
We've made it in Omaha. We have corruption in Omaha. So now, hey, we ain't this little podunk town, this little flyover. We're Omaha.
Corruption in Omaha, and also streetcars coming soon.
But no Bigfoot Conference.
The amount of people I had of my buddies that, again, this is when you know people are listening.
I got asked by another person about you eating the banana, by the way.
Well, I don't have a new one because that thing was disgusting when I took it out of my bag on Saturday morning, by the way. It was really gross. So I'm glad I did get rid of that. So we can go for Wednesday.
I've been asked by multiple people, which is saying something.
It was sitting here on the ledge as we wrapped up on Friday. I forgot. Sharpie didn't mention it. So, this needs to be a group effort for this to happen, but I'm willing to do it. But I was getting a lot of people on Friday afternoon. A lot of my friends were really interested in our conversation with Harriet. They're very interested in that. They said, so were you guys being serious or were you not? Of course we were.
Of course, it's a radio station.
They just they were very intrigued by that segment.
As were we.
They enjoyed it. My mom wanted to know more about her too. Yeah,
Mom should have gone out to Hastings.
And
learned everything you need to know.
Told her there's a convention. It's 2 days too. If you can't make Friday, you could have made Saturday.
All right, Amy Just will join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on The Crossover.
So LaShawn McCoy went to a preview of Avengers Endgame and spoiled it. And he was like, oh man, RIP Iron Man. He tweeted it. I think if you're the NFL, you have to suspend him.
Yeah, because that is code of conduct type of violation, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So that should be like a misdemeanor. Yeah, he should maybe go to jail.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley, the Connor Happer Show, unsportsmanlike conduct, 6A to 6P, 1620, The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Knoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A little bit more mild Monday with partly to mostly cloudy skies. There is a slight chance for a late day shower, though most will stay dry. Highs in the low to mid 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a bit of a delay near 90th and L. Then along Highway 370, be prepared for things to slow down a little bit near Golden Boulevard. And on Center, be prepared for things to start slowing down near 168th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Everyone knows Saul's pays top dollar for your gold, but Saul's pays cash on the spot for your precious metals too. Silver, gold, platinum, coins, bars. Who wants to wait to get paid? Get to Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Saul's Jewelry and Loan. Find it all at Saul's Jewelry.
Duck Defense Midwest makes your home healthier and improves the life of your HVAC system. So improve the health of your home and everyone in it. Go to cleanairradio.com for a special duct cleaning offer for Zone listeners. That's cleanairradio.com.
Creighton coverage on The Zone is presented by Barry Law. At Barry Law, we fight alongside those who choose to fight back. Call Barry Law at 402-999-7777 or visit BarryLawFirm.com. At Barry Law, we're in it to win it.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
Watching a ball game at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is pretty awesome. Oscar's offers the MLB package, so your team is always on their upgraded audio-video system, and nothing is better than watching the game with a cold frosty one, Oscar's Pizza, or award-winning char-buffed wings. And with daily lunch and dinner specials, it's really a no-brainer. So get ready to watch your favorite team play ball at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road, and takeout at 162nd and Maple.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I'm asking about Prevnar 20 because there's a chance pneumococcal pneumonia could put me in the hospital.
Age 65 or older, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I want to be able to keep my plans.
So I'm asking my doctor about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Amy Justin, Lincoln Journal Star Judges. Good Monday morning. To see you on Saturday from afar. I hope you made it through.
I did, barely. It was Saturday was a long day. Had my last long run for the Lincoln Half Marathon in a couple of weeks, and then I was zombie before I even got to the stadium. So we survived.
Yeah, 48 degrees at kickoff. That's wonderful for the 22nd of April. Hey, what was a bigger deal, more impactful? The introduction of Herbie from Husker Vision to him riding out on a Harley, or when he came onto the field with his T-shirt cannon pulled by a combine?
That was, well, it wasn't a combine, it was a tractor. Tell me you don't know anything about farming. Tell me you don't know anything about farming.
Dunked on you. So, but that was what, a 4640? I'm guessing 4640 tractor?
I was
trying to redeem yourself.
I wasn't close enough to see the numbers, as the press box is on the moon. But yeah, that was wild. Like Gatling gun style T-shirt cannons.
Yes.
Like both of those were pretty crazy, but I gotta say the T-shirt cannon was I mean, I can't come up with the word, so it's got to be that one.
Would you? Okay, so I got to redeem myself as someone that grew up in Iowa, but I grew up in a city.
Ew.
So I think it was a 4640. So let's talk about Herbie. So you've seen up close pictures, yay or nay?
I mean, it's fine. It's different.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Different
that's one way to
can be
describe
good. I mean, it doesn't bother me any. Doesn't make me jumping for joy. But it gives people, something to be excited about, I guess. My mom really likes it. She wants a flag. So that's what I'm going to get her for Mother's Day, I guess.
See, because I thought there was a little bit of a vibe of Herbie, new Herbie, that maybe has you running into your house and locking the door.
No.
Oh, okay.
Like it's fine. What I do like though is the sport specific one. Like that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, he definitely could stare into your soul. That's for sure.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
the hallmark of a good, terrifying mascot. Like,
Okay, so you do acknowledge it. There's a terrifying element there. Yeah, okay, good.
This is the breakdown I'm here for.
Hey, so, Amy, we're learning a lot about you. You're a big fan of the Providence Friar mascot and also
no,
Purdue
that
Pete.
one's too terrifying.
Yeah, there are levels.
Yeah,
There's no Pistol Pete.
So, we all do this, and especially around here where there's so much coverage of one particular program, is the overreaction after a spring game, and we don't get to see the 14 practices leading up to the one game that's on full display. What do you take away as real? That you believe what you saw, what you've heard over 15 practices is real with this football team going into the offseason?
So this is a college team, right, with new coaches, new schemes, new language for both offense and defense and special teams, completely different attack of how they're going to do special teams. So I'd be patient. So what I take away as real are the positive things, right? Like, Billy Kemp looked great. Jeff Sims looked great. I liked what I saw from Prince Will, the true freshman, right? But I don't pay too much attention just yet to the negatives that only affect one person. Now, if it's a negative that affects the entire group, like all of the fumbling, for instance, that's a concern. But it's not a, oh my God, everything's terrible, this is crap. Like, no, it's just like, oh, that's something that happened and affected more than one person. So that's going to be an emphasis. But it's nothing that people need to freak out about. This is spring football. Like, it's okay that there are less than ideal things happening because they have an entire summer and an entire training camp to figure it out. And plus, I don't want to read a whole lot into everything because they are so far over the scholarship limit that a lot of these guys aren't going to be here next week, right? So again, I'm trying not to read too much into, personal stuff and, general learning of things because it's only 15 practices. Like some scientist out there says you have to do something like, I don't know, however many times it is for it to become a habit. Like that's not enough time. Whatever the number is, it's not enough time for it to become a habit yet. So keeping things in perspective is good. But highlighting, the good things isn't a terrible idea though either.
And I think that's a good way of looking at it. And Amy, with what you just laid out there too, conversation that we were having a little bit ago is the quarterbacks. And I think there was maybe some type of anticipation of seeing what was maybe, I think first and foremost, people wanted to see Jeff Sims, but I think behind him too, with what we've heard with Heinrich Harburg and maybe some of the strides he's made based on maybe that anticipation and what you saw on Saturday. What was kind of your takeaway from quarterbacks outside of Jeff Sims from what you took in?
There's a pretty big drop off behind him. But again, if they had their full complement of quarterbacks healthy, it wouldn't have been such a significant drop off because you would have had Casey Thompson and you would have had Logan Smothers, right? So the canyon wouldn't have been so big, right? So, and I think that's fine, right? Because you go from QB1 to QB4. But Chuba looked okay. Playing for the red team probably didn't help him because the red team in general had difficulties. Not pointing anybody out because it's a spring game. Heinrich probably wanted a lot of those passes back. But again, people can have off days. It's a spring game. I'm not reading too much into it. But we'll see. After that, Honestly, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention because I was writing my Frank thing. Because I wrote about Frank instead of trying to break down the spring game and, what would have been the millionth article of doing so. I just figured that was a better angle for me to take on Saturday. So I was a little preoccupied in the second half.
So you saw enough in if you saw enough in the first half. So there's another position group that I think is going to be kind of interesting going into the offseason because they do have some talent there, but they may have a defection of somebody that's further down on the depth chart, and that's at running back. So we know all spring long, Gabe Ervin has been front and center, and he was one of the guys that was up front after the game. If you look at their depth chart, they've got Ramir Johnson as 2, and then they have Anthony Grant, and then A.J. Allen is in the mix as well. But they all kind of showed flashes. How do you think the running back room shakes out between now and the first game of the season?
Honestly, I genuinely have no idea. And what makes it difficult is all of those running backs, there's no carbon copy one to the other. They're all very different in terms of, their personal metrics, right? They're different sizes, they carry their weight differently, they have different talents, they're different styles of running backs, right? Gabe and Ramir are 2 very different types of running backs. And so I don't know how it's going to go. It wouldn't surprise me if they get more people involved and sort of situational things. You have your third down back. You have, in the red zone, you may use somebody different. So I think that might happen. But in terms of just carrying the load, I don't know. I like Gabe. I think he's good. I was glad we got to hear from him on Saturday. He was really insightful and had some, interesting things to say. But I wouldn't count out Anthony Grant either. I just wouldn't.
And kind of going with the backfield a little bit too. We saw it, and you mentioned you're right about Frank Solchen. It was a cool moment right out of the gate with Janier Bonner getting the the fullback dive and the football going to Frank. But then watching how they were utilizing Janier Bonner and kind of getting a glimpse of what Marcus Satterfield wants to kind of do with this offense. Is it safe to say that is a guy, Janier Bonner especially, he's a guy that if you are looking for just someone who's going to be utilized in so many different facets, you circle him first and foremost. So this is a guy that can really attack defenses in a lot of different ways, or at least they've kind of identified him as someone that they want to make involved in just about every facet of this offense.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. I mean, Matt said that he could play all 5 positions in terms of just being an offensive person, right? An athlete, so to speak. He can line up at fullback, running back, out wide in the slot if he needs to block, and as a tight end position, but not really be a tight end. He can probably do those things. He has the body to be able to do that. And the skill set could come with that. You saw flashes of it. So I like the fit. I think it's good. I was intrigued with the choice at first, but as you continue to watch it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. So
what do you and as you mentioned, and I know you covered it and got to be around Frank and that whole ceremony, and then this reaction from people that were on the field with Frank and people that were, like fans that were at the game. What do you think that does for Nebraska football moving forward? That Frank came back, they named the locker room after him. I mean, what happens next? What does that do for Nebraska football, the next step, because of what they did with Coach Solich?
Well, if you want me to say anything about curses, I'm the wrong person. I'm not. I'll wear a tinfoil hat sometimes, but that's just not who I am. I like things that are rooted in fact and truth. Journalism, what a concept. But honestly, I think it was cathartic.
It's a good word.
Frank is not an overly emotional person, but he was so close to crying. He may deny it, but I saw it. He was really close. all of the former players of his and not his that were on the sidelines, got visibly emotional. Trev got emotional. Everybody got emotional. You could hear it in the stands, like fans got emotional. And I think it was cathartic because, way back when this happened 20 years ago, like, it wasn't a popular decision, but more people felt like it was the right decision. Now that we have some perspective, opinions change, right? But I think it was good because this place is as good as it is because of its history. And that's not a slight. Like, embracing history is a good thing here. And when a huge chunk of it is missing and is absent, it's just not right. So I'm glad he came back. I'm glad they named the locker room after him. He said before the ceremony and the press conference we had with him on Friday that he hopes he can come back for some more games. I think that would be good, that this isn't just a one-off thing. Like, it's, a bridge that has been repaired over decades of decay. He has wanted to come back, but the time has never felt right, or it just hasn't worked. But having Matt Rule as Nebraska's coach and Matt really wanting him here, I think that is what flips the switch. And also him, being retired and having more time to do so.
Yeah, and Amy, I'm glad you brought up Matt Rule on this, because when he talked about a lot of the takeaways from the spring game, the one thing that he almost seemed to be pretty proud of was the fact that Solich was there, the fact that he was invited to go up to the gathering the Friday night before, and he seemed to be legitimately humbled by that. And with a lot of the buttons that Matt Rule has pushed that have been correct, where do you think that Saturday and him having an impact, I don't want to say he was the reason, but having an impact and this happening on his watch, do you think that how that means to Matt Rule, or what that means to Matt Rule?
Oh, it means a ton. It means a lot to him for this to happen. Frank said on Friday that, Matt doesn't need my advice. But he may not need it, but he wants it. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why he talks to Tom Osborne, and that's why he talks to all of the coaches that he has worked with in the past. He may not need the advice, but he certainly wants it, right? Because he wants to make it work here. A lot of people have wanted to make it work here and haven't been able to make it work here. So who do you go to for advice when you want to make it work here, when it hasn't worked here in a long time? You go to the people who knew how to do it. And but a little hard to talk to the dead. So you go to the people who are still alive, who've done it. Mm-hmm. And he has really treasured the conversations that he's had with Tom and Frank, and it's visible. You can tell.
It was one of those moments on Saturday that a lot of people remember for a long time. Amy, we appreciate it. Now we're off to the off season. Now look at how much fun this is going to be.
Yay.
Hey, we appreciate it as always. Have a great week.
Thank you.
That's Amy Just from the Journal-Star. I want to go back. So I've been saying all morning, and I got two things here. I apologize to my late Aunt Rose and Uncle Junior in Dedham, Iowa, which is in Carroll County.
Oh.
They are, if people know that area, they are huge farmers. Mm-hmm. Okay. I said combine. It's a tractor, clearly. I know what a combine is. So I apologize to them.
Okay. Did your inbox light up?
So my mom's side of the family, they're all from, they're farmers. Mm-hmm. And so I apologize there. Then I have been saying this incorrectly because I was reading the roster breakdown on Saturday on who was playing where. And so I've been saying that Ramir Johnson is number 2. It's actually Allen that is number 2 on the depth chart, because the white team was the number 1 offense. And then the red was the number 2 offense. So on the white, it went Irvin, Ramir, Grant. On the red, it went Allen, Emmett Johnson, Lubin, and Ruth.
Yeah.
On the depth chart. So because
somewhere,
but somewhere in here, there's the A.J. Allen. Where does he fit?
Yes.
Because Irvin's going to carry the ball. Grant's going to carry the ball. I would think you want A.J. Allen. I mean, he did fumble, but there's also the part of that running back room is, and I say this always, and he'll show flashes. I still don't know what a Ramir Johnson role looks like.
Right. I think it's one of the biggest mysteries, and it was even a mystery a year ago with the Mark Whipple offense based off of what we knew Mark Whipple came in with a history of and not really wanting to put a concerted effort into running the football, but having a guy that could maybe help you out of the backfield as a receiver in Ramir Johnson that he showed the previous year before he got hurt. And he was kind of lost in the shuffle. And then you think, okay, here's another offensive coordinator that understands what Ramir can bring, but is there a place for that? And when you look at the running backs and more of your traditional guys like Gabe Irvin, like A.J. Allen, like Anthony Grant, and you see how they stack up, and then where for an offensive coordinator who seems, and the Janier Bonner and what he's doing with the tight ends and kind of having them sort of as a Swiss Army knife, I think is another example of his creativity, what he wants to do. So you think, okay, maybe there's a place for Ramir Johnson, but the biggest question is, what is that role? Where is that role? And is it going to be enough of a role that Ramir Johnson, wants to be a part of this?
Let's finish the hour with Kurt. Kurt, thanks for the call. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, I was at the game and I noticed, or at least it seemed like it, the running backs ran with a little more patience. There were a couple times when, they would get the ball, get to the line of scrimmage, and almost pause a little bit, find the hole, then go, and then, they would do that a couple times on the same run. I don't know if that's new coaching or if it's just development or, another year under their belt, but it just seemed like I didn't see a lot of that last year, and I saw more of it on Saturday.
Did you also notice, and Kurt, that's a great observation, I thought guys' visions were a lot better. Their heads were up. So
it seemed like...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it seemed like they just did a better job of finding yards. And I know the rushing statistics weren't like off the charts, but, 3 yards goes a long ways. Whereas getting tackled at the line of scrimmage, isn't ideal. So I just felt like they had a little more patience. And again, I don't know if that's just from coaching or, another year under their belt, but it was good to see.
Yep. Kurt, thanks for the phone call. I mean, that's a unit that has a really good position coach. I thought their blitz pickups were pretty good. I mean, Anthony Grant drilled a couple of guys. Now, they weren't always perfect, but Kurt's observation is they were a little bit more patient, and their eyes were up, like the vision of where to read the block or to read the angle that the defender was coming at you. Now, Grant is still, I mean, there's a little bit of last year in him.
Yeah, there's a little
But
there's a little bit of dancing.
But there's something to work with there. Like, see, you wish you had a running back that could do it all, but you don't. Like, Irvin doesn't have the second level get to that Grant does, in my opinion. But then there are things that Irvin does that Grant won't be able to accomplish. So you're going to have basically 4 backs that all offer something different, and none of them do all the key parts of being a running back well. To say, you're the number one guy, and you're going to stay in there. So E.J. Barthel's got some decisions to make in the offseason on how they're going to divvy up roles for guys. But especially Ramir. I still don't know what his role is moving forward, where where Nebraska best benefits from Ramir on the football field.
Yeah, it's going to be a question that I think they're going to continue to kind of look at because, for Ramir, and this is why these conversations and these evaluations, and Rule even said it's going to be if we started today, here's what we would have you doing. I would be really curious to hear that part of it with Ramir Johnson.
All right, coming up in the next hour, we'll shift a little basketball. There's a lot of stuff that went on over the weekend on basketball. Some decisions to be made. Some decisions were made. The early entry trade or NBA entry deadline has come and passed. Trey Alexander, Art Kaluma in. Nobody else. So if you were wondering about Ryan Kalkbrenner, Keisei Tominaga, right now they're staying at their respective schools. But we still have time to go in the portal. I had portal boredom. And then portal, got NBA in it. And so I wasn't as bored with the portal.
It's coming back.
Oh, this will be a week.
Yeah.
There will be some moving and some shaking going on this week. But it might not necessarily be portal. It might be more high school guys saying yes. Our basketball guys coming up in the next hour. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com.
Remember,
No matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620, The Zone.
Hi again, everybody. Kent Pavelka courtside, getting ready for hail season with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. When hailstones fall, be sure to make the right call. Just one call to the experts at John Higgins Weather Guard to work directly with your insurance provider. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for the highest level of customer service. There are so many reasons, so many fans have used the winning team for their roof at John Higgins Weather Guard. Remember, when hailstorms fall, make the right call. The rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. The spring has arrived, which means you got good weather and you have some of that typical Nebraska spring weather. So if it's raining outside, no problem at all. The Top Tracer building is there to keep you covered and comfortable. You can play virtual courses from all around the world. And when the weather is great, well, of course, you can golf a full 18 or a quick 9 after work. 402-498-0220, Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
One Mississippi, two Mississippi.
Keep counting at those stop signs, Alex. Full stop and doesn't go until she counts to 5, McSweeney. Because you are a safe driver. Unlike most drivers who sign up for Snapshot from Progressive, which customizes your rate for how and how much you drive, you could earn a discount for your good driving. So don't turn into an Alex rolling stop and goes whenever she wants, McSweeney. Because once an Alex full stop and doesn't go until she counts to 5, McSweeney, always an Alex full stop. Well, you know the rest. Sign up for Snapshot today.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in all states or from all agents.
Your exclusive home for Royals baseball in Omaha.
Right up the middle, base hit, and the Royals are a winner.
1620, The Zone.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
This is a banger.
It is a banger.
There is no doubt this is a banger on a Monday.
Making love to you.
Great movie.
Underrated 80s movie. Underrated in the Nick Cage catalog.
Wait a minute. Which one are we talking about here?
Valley Girl. That's what this is from.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like one of his first movies.
Did not know.
He's been the same character ever since.
Figured this song has been in a bunch of 80s movies, so I didn't know. And I've never even heard of that movie. So
see?
There's a lot of people nowadays who've never heard of Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Which, shame on you. You haven't seen Raising Arizona.
Another
one. We got to go back a ways to find a good Nicolas Cage movie.
Raising Arizona. The only good one I ever saw him in. He was great in that one.
Go see Valley Girl.
Oh,
That's
actually,
nice.
He was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High as well. He's in the
he was
in the Spicoli crew.
That was a year before.
Yep.
They had around that time. So you had Fast Times at Ridgemont High in '82, Valley Girl in '83, Last American Virgin I think was '82. So there was like a number of these movies that came out at the same time. Not to go all Josh Hodson on you guys, but
no, you guys are like completely missing the best. Well, I mean, put some respect on Cher. He was in Moonstruck.
True. I saw that at a very young age. I'd never really rewatched it, but yep. Wait, are we talking Leaving Las Vegas?
No. Now, Leaving Las Vegas was a good movie.
Depressing, but good.
Man, you can't always have these lovey-dovey movies.
No, that's true.
And Elizabeth Shue. I mean, it's come on.
Which
one are we missing?
He is one of the two greatest worst movies ever. Con Air.
Oh God, yeah.
Just gonna say Con Air.
I didn't know if that's where you're going. Okay.
Con Air and Roadhouse are by far the two best worst movies of all time.
Love me some Roadhouse.
That is 100% accurate.
Be nice.
Roadhouse is great. And yes, Con Air, because it has the most ridiculous amount of action that would never happen in any walk of life, yet you can't look away.
I just see the air hitting or the sun hitting his face, and that's just what
That was the only cool thing about Aaron Rodgers when he returned to camp that I can say is when he did full Con Air.
Like Cameron Poe?
Yeah, that was actually, I was like, all right, A-Rod, I can be with you on that one. And then he A-Rodged it again.
But the question is, did John Malkovich actually make Con Air? Because of his character.
Yep.
Playing Cyrus the Virus Grissom.
John Malkovich, what would you...
Hey, that man is man.
Yes, what would you say stronger, that or Teddy KGB in Rounders?
Ooh, that's tough.
Because he was great.
How about a movie where you're playing like, being John Malkovich?
Yeah, well, there is that.
He's great in The Line of Fire, too. He plays a bad dude.
Assassin. I can't believe you brought that movie up.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. We do need to do a podcast on this. No one will listen, but...
I mean, who would ever thought that you'd get convicted of manslaughter and then you would hitch a ride aboard a prison transport plane full of the worst criminals imaginable?
Yep.
What could go wrong?
What could go... See, that's like the
This
trailer
summer,
right there.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Con Air.
Rated G.
There might have been part of it that was a little bit over the top, but it was believable.
Did you guys like Gone in 60 Seconds?
I was out by then.
I'm usually not gone in 60 seconds, a little bit longer. All right, Jacob Bigelow had a busy weekend of basketball. He's coming next.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown from 84th to 72nd along Highway 370. On Industrial Road, be prepared for some significant slowdowns from 149th to 138th. And on Dodge, things are slowing down just a little bit from 80th to 67th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Les Hills Harley-Davidson.
Come see the Toy Box at Les Hills Harley-Davidson, the ultimate playground of many mighty motorcycles. Take one for a test ride today. Les Hills Harley-Davidson, I-29 and Highway 34 south of Council Bluffs. Rise up and ride on.
Hi again, everybody. Kent Pavelka courtside getting ready for hail season with the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. When hailstones fall, be sure to make the right call. Just one call to the experts at John Higgins Weather Guard to work directly with your insurance provider. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for the highest level of customer service. There are so many reasons, so many fans have used the winning team for their roof at John Higgins Weather Guard. Remember, when hailstorms fall, make the right call. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Did you know the Salvation Army has thrift stores conveniently located around the Omaha metro area, and each one has bargains you won't find anywhere else? Come in today for deals on clothing, accessories, furniture, kitchenware, and more. Stop by, get a great deal, and make a big difference for people in need. For a list of store locations, just go to salarmyomaha.org. That's salarmyomaha.org. Thanks for your support.
Ever walk through a door and see all the trucks? Yeah, it's kind of like that at Gretna Auto Outlet. Half-ton trucks, three-quarter-ton trucks, dualies, gas or diesel. Gretna Auto Outlet will be happy to show it to you. They don't call it truck heaven for nothing, you know. Stop in the climate-controlled comfort of the indoor showroom or online with the virtual showroom at GretnaAuto.com. Gretna Auto Outlet, open Sundays too, just north of Nebraska Crossing on Highway 6 in Gretna.
How powerful is the Cox network? So powerful that one day the internet will let your doctor perform miracles from thousands of miles away,
Connecting to remote operating room.
giving a whole new meaning to the term house call.
Operation complete.
The Cox network, With multi-gig speeds now available, it's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, bringing us closer. Limited availability in select areas. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms apply. Other restrictions may apply.
It's time to wake up your taste buds. Introducing my new Fiesta Line Chicken Pizza. Spicy taco sauce, generous amounts of chicken, green peppers, onions, jalapenos, mounds of cheddar and mozzarella cheese, and finished with a tangy lime sprinkle. Add your favorite one-topping pizza and my sweet cinnamon monkey bread. Fiesta Feast. Now that's a fiesta for your mouth. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per-ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley.
All right, time for some hoop heads. We start with Jacob Bigelow, who spent part of the weekend over in Council Bluffs at the Iowa West Fieldhouse. The 3 SSB circuit, the Adidas circuit, was in town for the second time in 3 years. Last time it was here was the late observation period, live period. This is the early live period. How was this year's edition?
It was good. I was only there. I actually was only out there on Friday night, but still, what I saw was some pretty good basketball. Had to get a look at Koa Pete, the 5-star, who was playing with Compton Magic, playing up a year. He's a 25, but he was playing with their 17U squad. And then I had to see what it was like for a 7'6" kid to play basketball. There was also the 7'6" kid who was playing. So I was kind of bouncing around all over the place on Friday night, but I still had a good time.
And Pete, whose brother played football at Nebraska, and then the brother played in the NFL from Stanford to the Saints, is on an unofficial in Lincoln today. So how many coaches did you bug looking for a job as a GA or something else?
I didn't bug anybody, actually, because unfortunately, like all my friends in coaching, they were either in Atlanta or in St. Louis. None of my guys decided to make the trip to the Omaha Metro this weekend. I was kind of bummed out, but that didn't take away from the fact that there were still some pretty big names that either they were there on Friday night or they bounced in throughout the weekend. But all of my close friends and close contacts were not in town, unfortunately.
You watch the 7'6" guys. You said, did it look weird watching them run? I feel like anybody over 7'2", they just look really uncomfortable running and doing normal things.
Yes, no, it definitely was a little odd. Yeah, he's a 7'6". He's French Canadian. He's from Montreal, but he's playing basketball at IMG Academy during the school year. And then I asked a couple people if it was wrong for me to assume he had a Purdue offer. He did not have a Purdue offer, but don't let Matt Painter get wind of a 7'6" kid to fill in the void of all the giants that have gone through West Lafayette these last couple of years.
Hey, let's start with current roster in Lincoln, because Tominaga was at the spring game. He had a stocking cap on. He's wearing his Letterman's jacket. He looks like he's 12 years old. Kids are asking for his autograph, and then adults are going, "Hey, are you going to stay?" So Jazz Shelley, who is from Australia, who is coming back to Nebraska, just tweeted this out. Excited to be able to participate in NIL deals with companies both inside and outside of the United States for the dates that I am home. And she has let everybody know that she'll be back in her home country May 25th through July 1st. So if a company in Nebraska wants to do an NIL with Jazz, they have to do it while she is in Australia, because international students, as of right now, can't make money in the U.S. because of their student visas. So you have Tominaga. He's not putting his name in early for the NBA draft, but publicly he hasn't said that he's coming back. What is your read? I think we ask you this every week. What do you think is happening with Casey?
I think they're just kind of trying to iron out a
a plan that, to get that NIL situation, ironed out. I don't know when Casey would be. I don't know if they're going on their foreign trip. They're going to Spain.
Yep.
So I don't know if Casey would have a time where he's able to go home to Japan for an extended period of time. I do know they have the foreign trip to Spain, but I've just continued to say that I think that every day that passes where we don't hear, like you said, the deadline passed to even just to get evaluated for the NBA. I think it's becoming more and more clear that we can expect Casey to be back, barring any complete 180. I think we're trending definitely toward Casey being back. I think they just got to iron out some details and maybe get him on a similar plan to Jazz to make it all that more enticing for him to stick around.
And is that kind of where the recruiting pitch shifts over to Hunter Salas? Latrell Wrightsell was that combo package is what we were hearing that could be sort of pitched. Now Wrightsell commits to Alabama, and if you can have some type of reassurance that Casey's coming, I mean, do you feel like that is maybe part of that recruiting pitch, especially with Hunter in town this weekend, with what that might have, what you're going to try to sell him on?
Oh, definitely. I think it was all. I think it all could definitely be intertwined. I mean, whether they were to add one or both of Hunter or Wrightsell, obviously they would have still been really heavy at guard, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of off-ball guards who are like capable ball handlers, but aren't like primary point guards. So it's kind of it was going to be a crowded group for drill work and fighting for minutes regardless. But I think definitely that's part of the pitch with Hunter is I don't people have been projecting him as a point guard since he was in high school, and he's never really been a point guard. He's been a capable ball handler, but they made sure to have Bryce McGowan's in town this past weekend to say, hey, look what you can do here, or look what 1 year here can do for you. Maybe they were pitching him on the last two guys to put on that number 5 jersey, a combination of McGowan and a combination of Greasel, as someone who didn't start their college career as a point guard, but developed into one, ironed it out with a year at Nebraska. So maybe there's something about that number 5 jersey in Lincoln.
I'm going to ask you about that because Bryce was in town recruiting for Nebraska, which is story, by itself. But a guy that is one and done. I mean, he loves Nebraska. But I'll ask you about him in just a moment. Let's talk about Hunter. So the entire family was on the visit. Dad and then mom and stepdad, and people know the family very, very well. I think Dad was also working. I think he was writing a story. Former editor of the Omaha World Herald. Then they moved out to Spokane. So the whole family is here, but it's on the heels of a Wake Forest visit. I heard that Wake Forest went really, really well. What's your read on the timeline on Hunter's decision on where he's going to play? And where is Nebraska a 1A, 1B, a number 2? What are you hearing through the grapevine?
It's tough to tell where Nebraska is in terms of 1A or 1B. I think they're in a good spot. We haven't heard any other visits being scheduled aside from Wake and Nebraska, and obviously he did them both back to back. I did hear similar that the Wake visit did go very well. I thought it was interesting. We talked about Nebraska having Bryce McGowan's in town, kind of to give the recruiting pitch. Wake Forest, old Steve Forbes, he pulled one out of his bag of tricks. Not with an NBA guy, but with a recruit and 4-star Oklahoma product, Parker Frederickson, who some Nebraska basketball fans may know. Parker, his dad, and his entire family is from Aurora. He grew up coming to Nebraska football games. And, his recruiting process was very interesting, and Nebraska was in it multiple times up until the very end. And, depending on who you ask, he wanted to be a Husker, but he wound up committing to Coach Forbes and to Wake Forest. And it just so happened that he was in Winston-Salem at the same time as Hunter on his visit. So these coaches were both pulling out pulling cards out of their bag of tricks when Hunter was in town. But I did hear similar that Wake did go very well, and by all accounts, Nebraska went well as well. So I have to think the timetable may be fairly soon. I can't put an exact number of days on it, but as long as we haven't heard of any other visits being said, it kind of sounds like it's Nebraska and Wake Forest.
Also, Josiah Allick was there, and just what you heard from his visit, of course, his connection with not only being from Lincoln, but his sister playing volleyball. Like, what did you hear about that one?
I heard that also. That went well as well. It was kind of interesting, hearing a while back, some of those schools that Josiah had been focusing on. Nebraska was kind of the only high major, but obviously the hometown connection and the connection with Becca playing volleyball, that obviously makes sense. He visited San Diego State last week. That would be, an in-conference transfer going from New Mexico to San Diego State, and obviously they're the national runners-up. But by all accounts, everything went well with him too. And it wouldn't be too bad to have have another big guy in the fold for Nebraska, and one with local ties if that came to be.
How long do you wait on Salas? You okay?
That's
I don't know.
That's that's a good question. I mean, obviously not too much longer, I don't think. Part of me, I have no direct information from Hunter. Hunter's a quiet kid. He likes to keep to himself, but I kind of have the sense that he may want to just have his next destination decided sooner rather than later. Not like he's in a hurry to, let's just get this over with. But I don't think Hunter's going to want to drag this out. I think he's going to want to, weigh his options and make a decision here in the near future. Not too much longer, I don't think.
Speaking of timetables, and a guy that I think a lot of us are interested on if he would come back even at a reduced role, but the timing and when he might, if he is going to move on, decides to move on. Not saying I want this to happen, but CJ Wilcher, is that something that you expect to kind of get some type of answer one way or another soon? Or if it's, no news, that's good news for Nebraska, but also what the role could be. I mean, a lot of it is these dominoes that we're talking about with these recruits, these dominoes needing to fall before we really kind of know where CJ Wilcher stands.
I mean, that could be said. I kind of feel like we already know. Like, I think, I don't think there's any, barring any, injury or any further roster attrition, I don't think there's a way CJ Wilcher has a role as big as he's had his first couple years here. Whether that just be the young guys or the new additions, I mean, I just don't think that there's any way he's going to have a role that big. I don't know, what a greener pasture would be for CJ in terms of level of play or role that he's looking for. But I mean, I think we should have an answer here fairly soon. I've been hearing mixed things on what he's going to do since the end of the season. So I don't know if it's just in terms of who else they add or what else, what else comes to the roster or if anyone else leaves. But you'd think that, he's probably been wondering what my role is here since the buzzer sounded in Chicago, and I don't know what could be going through his head. But yeah, that's definitely one to ponder, one to think about.
Hey, we'll get you out on this. I brought it up earlier because you brought up Bryce McGowan's, and I think he's a very interesting guy. So his guy that recruited him here, Matt Abdelmassi, is long gone. All right, his man, his dude, is gone. Fred's still here. Bryce is still here. Like, I think this is an amazing, it says a lot also about the young man, maybe his connection to Nebraska and maybe his connection to Lincoln, that when you're an NBA guy and you're a one and done and you're here for a cup of coffee, you come in, you get out, you don't go to school, hey, thanks for the mems, but I'm using you for 1 year because I have to go to college. He's a guy that showed up and he's everywhere. Okay, he's out in the community. He went to games. He went to games here in Omaha with his brother. I mean, Bryce is everywhere. I thought it was a huge statement this weekend for a guy that just got done with his NBA season, showed up in Lincoln to be a recruiter for Hunter Salas. Can you recall a player that has been like that? Because I think that's a pretty special thing that Nebraska has going in their relationship with Bryce McGowan.
Yeah, I can't really recall anything like that for Nebraska basketball. I definitely think I agree with you. I think it's special. I think Bryce really liked Lincoln, liked his time in Lincoln. Like you said, he was going to a bunch of high school games. He was going to Creighton games, even Creighton women's games. I mean, he loves basketball, and that's just whether it's coming back to be a recruiter for Hunter Salas, or whether it's coming back to run camps, with Thomas Filianco down in Lincoln. He's shown that he's a first class, ambassador for Nebraska, for Lincoln. And it doesn't hurt that, he worked his butt off, in his rookie season to go from a 2-way contract to a full contract with the Hornets by the end of the year. That's just a testament to Bryce's, his work ethic and his hard work. And, the connection to Nebraska, that's just an added bonus for Bryce. But, they're going to be able to, as long as they've got that good relationship. I know he's got a good, Fred's still here, Nate Lenzer, and the development with Nate and the workout and that whole thing, that's a big connection too. And that's all a part of the pitch to not just Hunter Salas, but recruits in the future. Is look what we did with this guy in 1 year.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty remarkable because he is like the best ambassador going for Nebraska basketball. Jacob, we appreciate it. I'm sure it'll be another busy week.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
That's Jacob Bigelow from Huskers Illustrated, among other things. Yeah, Bryce was hanging out with the Salases, hanging out with Alec, hanging out with Hoiberg, hanging out with the fans.
And
the guy, where does he stay when he comes back?
Right.
Like, is he ready to buy a place like on Holmes Lake or Capitol Beach? Not Holmes Lake, Capitol Beach.
Lincoln and Omaha, and for people from out of the state, it just kind of sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Or maybe he's going to buy they got. If you hadn't been to Lincoln in a while and you were there on Saturday, they got a lot of construction going on. They're building a lot of apartments, condos.
Some property. Yeah.
Maybe he will be.
It's a good investment.
Maybe he'll own a condo in downtown Lincoln.
Yeah, that was when he came back during the All-Star break. It was one thing, you're going to a game, but then to kind of be a part of the recruiting weekend, like you're right. And I'm glad you brought that up for someone who is a one and done and who is at least seemingly connected more to Matt Abdelmassi than he was with Fred Hoiberg. Like that relationship and the guy who's willing to do that. I think it just kind of speaks volumes of still what he thinks of Fred, but also to Nebraska, which again, man, it appeals to people, man. You're not from there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, there's actually this is a bustling city. Okay, cool. But that was kind of something that people probably following the recruiting process maybe knew more than I did, but I thought that was kind of a surprise, but kind of cool to see that he was trying to help out and he was back for the spring weekend.
We may know something this week on Brady Dunlop. He just got done with his trip to St. John's. So he's Nebraska, North Carolina, Penn State, St. John's, Villanova. Which school does not fit? It is odd. I mean, Nebraska doesn't fit with North Carolina, Penn State, St. John's, Villanova. I mean, Penn State, Shrewsbury is not there, but I mean, you got a 4-star high school kid who's still trying to figure out. But he had a St. John's trip this weekend, and he's already been to Nebraska. So maybe this week he decides on where he's going to go to school. All right. Well, that's going on in Lincoln. There's a lot of stuff going on with the blue team in Omaha. Joel Lorenzi will join us before the hour is over. We'll pick his brain and we'll let him flex. And everybody had Nemhard going to Arizona.
Yeah.
Joel said, not so fast, my friends.
Oh, yeah.
He pulled his Lee Corso out, which we don't recommend. All right, 9:25. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
So in a way, college football exists because it has to. It's a feeder system, but it's a minor league system that does its own thing, even though that's what it is.
That's what happened. That wasn't why college sports came to an existence in the first place. The games literally started as recreation, and
They're club sports,
and then when the colleges realized, hey, this can be a marketing tool, and it made money.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A little bit more mild Monday with partly to mostly cloudy skies. There's a slight chance for a late day shower, though most will stay dry. Highs in the low to mid 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
It's spring. Now is the best time to shop at Lanahaw for all things garden or landscape. Our garden center is filled with the largest selection of homegrown plants, flowers, trees, and more. The area's best mulch and soil available for delivery and pickup. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's half-off deal is $50 worth of vouchers to Le Voltaire French Restaurant for only $25. Le Voltaire Pepperwood Village is a locally owned, unpretentious French restaurant serving down-home cooking with an extensive wine list and great handcrafted cocktails for decades. Whether dining with friends, clients, or that special someone, Le Voltaire will make you feel right at home.
Zone Deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday, 1620thezone.com.
Attention sales professionals. NRG Media is looking for an accomplished business-to-business salesperson who wants to take their success and skills to a new level. Is this you? Our account executives work with local businesses to create marketing plans to help them get more customers. On air, digital, on-site, audio, video, it's all part of what you could sell. A sales career with NRG lets you make a real difference. Get more info and apply online at nrgmedia.com. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
I love when rich people whine with the whole check mark thing.
Oh, it's been going. Yeah, it's been fun to watch.
There's some pissy people.
It's always nice when people have more than $8 for their checking account, complain about $8 a month, and all of that went on that old website. Let me give you a little heads up. This is the question I'm going to pose to Fat Bald Santa Ginger and his producer. So nobody on air ever had a blue check mark here. Who would be the most likely at 1620 to pay for a blue check mark? Think about that. That's going to be a topic coming up in the crossover.
That is a good question.
Put that in your brownie and bake it.
Yeah.
Where'd that saying came from?
I mean, I was going to say put that in your pipe and smoke it, but
you
that
can
was last
stuff
week.
your size in a sack, mister. Yeah, that's a great question.
Or in a tube sock. Man, this is.
Yeah. So think about that. You got a little time here before
because the only guy in 1620 that I don't have a previous relationship before I got here with would be Josh Peterson. So I don't really know Josh well enough.
So one vote for Josh, okay.
But Connor, I knew a little bit more recently. I've known you for a while. I've known John Bishop for a while. Josh Odson, I don't know very well up until coming here, and Nick Grimm. So if we're throwing the producers and obviously you, James.
I've been called worse.
So yeah, that's a good question. Okay.
I can tell you right now, there's no way in hell I would. I'm too cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I get ticked off when I actually have to pay for a ticket and stuff.
$4 for a hot dog?
Yeah.
So, as part of the discussion about who has a check mark, if they paid for it, if Elon paid for it, or if they're a verified account, the Carolina Panther fans were all upset and were accusing Matt Rule of paying $8 a month to have a blue check mark.
Man, they're
like, what a loser. Got to have his check mark, so he paid $8 a month. Now, there must be
you paid that, Carolina.
There was a Husker, there was a Husker. Oh yeah, he's got a lot of money, but he should be able to pay it. And then there was a Husker fan that was monitoring the foolishness of the Carolina Panther fans and their absolute hate for Matt Rule.
It's amazing.
They're like, you know what? He is the main account for the football account, so he is verified, and so he keeps the blue check mark. So that just kind of stopped the conversation. And I noticed it's picked back up today.
Because why not?
Angry Monday in Charlotte, apparently.
Oh, yeah, but what was his record at Carolina? Doesn't deserve a blue check mark.
Do you think that after Thursday when they draft Bryce Young, they will forget about Matt Rule?
Until Bryce Young throws his first interception.
No,
then it'll somehow be Matt Rule's fault.
They are so obsessed with Matt Rule.
I know it. It's for a guy, and that shows you. I think
George Seifert went 1-15. They moved him right away.
I think it shows you how excited they were to get him originally, because if you still can't let that go, that means that your expectations were sky high and you were majorly let down. Because if you're just like, I don't know how I feel about this hire, and then you end up, changing head coaches within a couple of years, I don't think you're that pissed off about it. I think it's only when you feel let down, hoodwinked, bamboozled.
It's surpassed Tennessee fans with Lane Kiffin.
I mean, Carolina fans, don't be upset. I mean, if Bryce Young was 2 inches taller, you'd be getting a great quarterback prospect. Joel Lorenzi, big baller shot caller from the World Herald. We got lots to talk about. Trey Alexander, Art Kaluma, Rice, Sterling Knox. By the way, your timing, son. When you're committing to Creighton, you gotta read the room. Trey Alexander said he's going to the NBA. You can't be announcing your commitment on that day. You just got completely lost. Joel's coming next.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 11th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let us handle all the details steps away on the south side of Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination. Blur Events takes care of all the work so you can enjoy the day.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Don't miss this week's Zone Deal.
This week's half-off deal is $50 worth of vouchers to Le Voltaire French Restaurant for only $25. Le Voltaire Pepperwood Village is a locally owned, unpretentious French restaurant serving down-home cooking with an extensive wine list and great handcrafted cocktails for decades. Whether dining with friends, clients, or that special someone, Le Voltaire will make you feel right at home.
Zone deals go fast. 9 a.m. Friday, 1620thezone.com.
Yes, we do have availability. Those dates for how many guests?
Andrea's Boutique Hotel is the destination to tie the knot.
Oh, you want the whole property?
She needs an assistant to catch the bookings bouquets.
249 guests, huh? Oh, and 3 dogs.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, I just saw he changed his bio on his Twitter page. Joel Lorenzi, the World Herald, joins us. Don't mess with the bull, you'll get the horns. As you flexed on some people, got a little upset about the Nembhard to Gonzaga stuff. How you doing, my friend?
I'm all right, man. I calmed down since then. I'm not a hater. I'm not even an angry dude. It's just, I've had some stuff on my chest recently. That's all.
Well, if you'd like to get it off right here, go ahead. We'll just let you freestyle right now.
Well, I can't curse on the airwaves, so it's going to be a lot of sensitive stuff. But man, I'm not a fan of the crystal ball stuff. I'm not a fan. Really, I'm just not a fan of this whole recruiting thing. I'm starting to become less of a fan of college basketball as a whole and what it's becoming. And really, I'm just I don't know. Somebody asked me like, aren't you supposed to be like they, this whole thing? It's like the difference between me and a burner is, some of this stuff I've been talking about on the airways with you guys and on podcasts for weeks. And then burners will come out of nowhere and say, "Oh yeah, my sources are telling me this," and I couldn't report this stuff that I've been hearing because if I attach my name to it, then I would probably be out this business, man. And
reckless speculation on your part.
Yeah, and so I think people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand it. Like, it's my livelihood, man. Like, these people, they're never going to show their face. So it's never going to affect them, man. So I think when they try to act like they're doing something like it's upsetting, man. Sometimes, usually I just let that stuff go. But the Nembhard stuff, and then the Nembhard, everybody, that was ridiculous the way that the whole thing occurred. And obviously, I think Arizona was pretty far along. But things just changed there. But for people that have been, I didn't like the discourse surrounding him and the whole going to Arizona. People talking about money and this and that and talking crazy about him, saying stuff that they would never say to him. If this dude would have stayed another year, they probably would have retired his jersey. And people were talking crazy. Like I just read some baffling stuff, man. I still read some pretty baffling things. And just going back to the insider thing, like people, somebody, like I was saying, somebody was asking me, like, aren't you supposed to be just insider this and that? And I started to think about it. I'm like, man, I really just want to be the best analyst and storyteller out here. But, the breaking news stuff comes with it. And they can't say I don't do that because, came up with the Bama game and the other things. So can't say I'm out the loop. But the label insider, it's such a nasty, like, you look at the people who are insiders, I won't say no names, but the insiders, the life of an insider is really gross, man. Like, it's not a cool way to live. Like, I don't envy insiders and the people who are, banging down doors and calling people all day, trying to stay in the loop, or not even trying to stay in the loop, trying to get that scoop and, stuff like that. Like, it's not a lifestyle I envy, man. It's not something people should be trying to be.
And I was asked this question when the news was official that Nembhard was going to go to Gonzaga, and I had mentioned to a buddy of mine that, it seemed like Arizona was kind of the front runner. That was early in the process, and he had asked me what had changed. Where do you think things went the other way to Gonzaga. And obviously his brother having a connection to both head coaches, I thought maybe had something at play with both schools. But as far as when maybe Gonzaga was able to kind of, get the ultimate decision to go their way, anything that you're aware of that maybe kind of put them over the top?
Gonzaga, I think they were never quite out of it. Like, I think Arizona was really far along, and I think obviously some of the speculation is that, Arizona, because the insiders had, basically sealed the deal or whatever, married him in Arizona early on, and Arizona kind of had to back off out of fear of, being turned in for tampering.
Yeah.
That's just some of the things you'll hear. But I'm not sure Gonzaga, assuming Arizona did back off or whatever the case may be, I thought Gonzaga was it was probably like a 70-30 to start anyway. I thought Gonzaga was always right there, and when the field opened up, it was like, I mean, the indication I got was that, Gonzaga, people, it was kind of baffling that people were like writing off Gonzaga for the obvious reason that, his brother went there. Like, people were talking about, Tommy Lloyd was the recruiter at Gonzaga when his brother was there. But Mark Few was the head coach, man.
Right.
And the fit, I think, was probably more welcoming at Gonzaga. I mean, they really needed a point guard. And they got the best one in the portal. So I think it made all the sense in the world for him. And I think, I don't know about I don't know if it made so much sense to him the day that he, informed the staff that he was going to hit the portal. So I'd say about a week after that, things probably started to shift for him, if I had to guess. And that's when it became clear, like, okay, Gonzaga is a real option.
So Trey goes into the NBA early entry, not into the portal, and he's going to be 20 by the time the NBA draft rolls around. And you've gotten to know him, and he's a really methodical thinker, and that's kind of his game. That's how I equate him to. But he believes in himself, and when he wants to go for something, he's going to go for something. What do you think, knowing you saw him in person an entire year, the association, where do you think his evaluation, what range will you think it'll be in that the NBA will look at him and go, hey, this is what we really, really like. This is where you see him?
Yeah, I don't think I've maybe seen Trey, and this is dating back to I'd say November, because there was, funny enough, there was a point where he was maybe the first guy. I think this only happened once, and this was probably the Athletic. I think he was. I mean, I don't even want to attach the Athletic's name to it because I could be wrong. I remember seeing Trey at like 46 on a mock draft earlier in the year, and he was probably the highest out of all the guys on the team. But that was the one time I saw that. Then I'm not sure I saw Trey again after that, because I think people are pretty sold on him being a 2024 cycle guy. So I think what you're going to see is, he's going to do his thing, he's going to go through workouts. I think the reality is, unless he has like a godlike summer, he's not going to get pushed into that range to where his agent's like, okay, like, I'm not telling him to go back to school. Because it's like, when it comes down to it, like, the agent, if he got into a range where both him and the agent could be satisfied, then the agent's not going to be like, yeah, like, he should go back to school. Like, no, like, if he got to maybe anywhere from 30 to probably 40, which, like I said, would probably take a godlike summer, then it's like, okay, now they're probably staying in the draft. But I think, I don't know how likely that is, and it's probably not very. I mean, this is a relatively deep draft, and some good dudes in this draft, and I think just the general expectation by now is that Trey comes back a year and really pushes himself into the first round anyway. And so I think that's the expectation. And I think even if he was to play himself into, I don't know, those last 10 picks where somebody wants to pick him there, I'm not sure that's enough to where, his agency is like, okay, we're staying in the draft.
I agree.
Joel, Art Kaluma also declared for the NBA draft, and I know this is something you'd kind of anticipated as well. The interesting thing, there didn't, unless something came out later, was there any mention that he would also use the possibility of retaining his college eligibility at some point if it didn't go well? I didn't see anything like that.
No, so the graphic he posted didn't mention it. I'm not sure that's a priority to him, but Don Sanson later reported that his agent said that the priority was a draft, but they would keep eligibility, and I later confirmed that he is keeping his eligibility. But if I had to speculate, I mean, even the agent said it like for it to not even be on the graphic, probably says it.
Right.
They're valuing the draft. There's no mention of, the portal or anything college related. Basically kissing Omaha goodbye in what he wrote.
Right. It seemed like a farewell.
Sounds to me like college is out the picture. And that's a guy that I saw all year, regardless, because, he was the guy who, to start the year, was projected lottery. And even as his draft stock fluctuated, he still kind of sat on draft boards, even if it was super late. This is a guy that I always thought all year, like, regardless of what happens, I think he's going to try his hand and probably stay in, no matter where he lands. I think he's just ready to take that next leap. If I had to guess, and really, I think that's a guy that will probably benefit from developing in the pros at this point than college. I think that's probably the way he sees it, based on some of the limitations from the college game and what he wants to be as a player. So,
yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's more difficult to at this point replace Trey than it would to replace Kaluma. But let's say, and again, we're on the same page with Art staying in the draft, or wherever his destination is, or where he's playing next year will not be at Creighton. So the ideal four would be to take his spot on the current roster: Miller, Isaac Trout.
Yeah, and hey, let's rewind. It would only be harder to replace Trey now because that's who they're building the team around.
Mm-hmm.
But there are going to be times next year. Don't get me wrong. There are going to be times next year where they're watching Mason Miller or whoever it is, and they're like, "Damn, I miss Arthur Kaluma," because the rotation they have now. I mean, you're probably looking at. I mean, I don't know what kind of summer he'll have, but you're probably looking at Mason Miller starting. I think that's a guy who they didn't want to recruit over this summer. They got a lot of faith in him. Some dudes in that department got a lot of faith in him. And then Isaac Trout is a guy. We haven't seen him play college basketball. He could easily probably end up a starter, if not to start the year, then maybe later in the year. I think it's a little more interesting fit next to Kalkbrenner. Should Kalkbrenner come back, because he's 6'10", probably less mobile than Mason, and it's just interesting. But we haven't even seen him play a game, so we wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Mason is a guy they didn't want to recruit over, and I think they see a lot of him. Now, personally, I think he's gonna have to have a crazy summer for me to even be remotely confident in, them not missing Kaluma so much if he steps into that starting role. But we're in April, man. We got a long way to go, and I don't know. I mean, the tools have always been there. That's something we've never argued, right? It's just what he does with them and what those minutes look like. And obviously those minutes were more encouraging to end the year. But Kaluma was a ball player, man. Like, let's not get this twisted. I know that our revisionist history is really bad, but Kaluma, for all the mistakes he made and all the times you might slap down the table, like, damn, what is he doing? Like, Kaluma had that talent, man. And he'll I can say this, without watching Mason or a minute Isaac Trout, Kaluma is defending more positions than either of those dudes. Probably has a better handle than both of those dudes, even for as many ISOs as we hated from Kaluma. And I don't know, there's just going to be stuff they miss about Kaluma, man, like really, really bad.
I do agree with you on some of the stuff about Art. But if I had to choose one, or if you just, both would be difficult to replace. But I look at what Trey is going to give them. And you're right, and we're in agreement here. you're building around Trey Alexander. So between now and June 12th, not only at Creighton, but a lot of other places will be very interesting because you don't want to be caught. He didn't come back. I saved his scholarship. Now what do we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Joel, I appreciate it. Enjoy a little Miami-Milwaukee tonight. Who wins there?
Man, I need Giannis to come back, man. I'm tired of these. Man, he got these watered-down series. The Suns are about to get away with robbery because Kawhi is sitting on the bench, man. The Suns haven't even made it out the first round.
I know, and unbelievably, Russell Westbrook has had an incredible series.
This is ridiculous, man. Kawhi should be sending them home, man. They should be thinking about the offseason.
All right, who's up 3-2 tonight? Milwaukee, the Lakers or Memphis?
Lakers. You see what they did last game, man. Come on.
I know. I took even to keep it interesting, it took Ja to score 45 and 22 in the fourth quarter.
Exactly. And Dylan Brooks is over here reaching from below the belt and all that, man. I thought that was supposed to be Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis.
Nice.
Over here doing it in LA, man. Come on, man.
That's a good way to finish. My man, have a good week. I know you'll be busy.
Yes, sir. Talk soon.
That's Joel Lorenzi, the Omaha World Herald.
Yeah, he's right about the Suns. They are getting away with robbery. I mean, good on Russ, but that series is over.
Yeah. All right, June 12th. You can wait until then. Mac has always kept the scholarship open for guys. They are though actively recruiting, not necessarily difference makers. They got the Knox kid is a project, but they've made another offer to a 20. What are we in the 23 recruiting class? Yeah.
Yep. That would be right.
All right. Good show, everybody. The Monday after the spring game, of course, we haven't even scratched the surface on things to talk about. Spring football. We'll do that tomorrow because our football heads will be in on the show. And we will get closer to the NFL draft. For some reason, the Houston Texans are really cryptic today on social media.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now just go ahead and trade that pick. Trade to the Vikings, and they'll grab their quarterback of the future.
God, I love this week.
For Nick, for Jimmy, I'm Gary. The crossover's coming up next.
Live from the host